Cool. I did see your pull request and I merged it. Thank you for that on the live video chat. That was really cool. Keeping it up to date. Yeah, thank you for your contribution. Lots to know. Okay, I'll just, let's see. I'll wait 2 more minutes and then I'll start the stream onto the other platforms. It's probably going to cause some noise. We haven't really said anything, and there's been a lot of people dunking on us online. uh, Trying to at least. This is going to be super boring for the first hour if you are already a dev, but probably really useful if you're not a dev. And then the second part, we're going to go through the documentation. We're going to go through the architecture, the concepts. I'll just kind of yap a bit about why I chose these things and maybe why tools versus actions. Why tools versus actions. And I don't know, it's gonna be kind of boring, but I'll talk about it. Let's see. So Carlos, you were saying I can run multiple agents with Twitter client seems to only use one. That is definitely a bug. Please make an issue and I will prioritize getting that fixed, fixing it or getting someone else to fix it, because it should really, I noticed that too. I had some like funky stuff where it was like calling from the wrong Twitter client, and it might be like a singleton issue or I don't know, something like that. And we got some crack devs who can look at that for sure. Maybe somebody here will fix it by the end of the stream, but if they're really bored because they're already really cracked. Okay, it's 10 minutes in. I'm going to start the stream. We're just gonna yap for like a few minutes. See how this goes. We are streaming. All right, we're live on Twitch. We're live on YouTube. We're live on X. I got Restream set up. And if anybody wants to just give me confirmation that's going on. Yeah, cool. And let's see. We're just gonna like wait for people to fill in here. We'll start in about 10 minutes, but I wanted to let people know this was happening. I'm Moon Makes Magic on YouTube. You could probably search the stream. You could also go see Shaw Makes Magic on Twitter. I think it'll be streaming on X. We're gonna go over everything from yes, Jen, I'm recording. Don't worry. We're gonna go over everything from like I have never used NPM or Node.js. I should add that install Node, right? Well, what is Node? What is Node? The fuck is TypeScript? Why make an agent in TypeScript? That's probably a lot of people's agent burning desires. If anybody wants to go on X and check, but I do think I checked the audio in the recording. It sounded okay to me, and I haven't checked the audio in the stream, but I assume it's probably working. If you are not on the Discord space and you're coming from anywhere else, or you are seeing this as a recording later, I am responding to people who are posting in the Discord stage, and I am just answering their questions. So if I jump out and start saying weird stuff that comes out of nowhere, probably you should be in the Discord and watching this in our Discord so that you can see what people are saying. I cannot see anyone's comments on any other client right now. I'm just not even gonna look. And the Discord is really like where our partners all hang. So I feel like it's good to be among friends. You know, kind of keep it tight. So the first hour, maybe hour and a half of this is going to be development basics. We're just going to go through just very basically like Node.js, TypeScript, NPM. If you use Windows, I'm not going to show you this, but maybe I'll link to like WSL and explain why you would want that. Installing PNPM, why you would want that. Cloning the repo, switching branches, pulling the latest changes, just some basic Git stuff, which is probably really boring if you use Git, but might be very helpful if you haven't. I just want you to see kind of some of my flow. And then we're going to create a character. We're going to run the character, and then I'm going to attempt to add the character to Discord without leaking my keys. That's generally the plan here. And then we'll do a Q&A on all of the basic stuff around that. Just getting set up, making a character, you're ready to go and get started. Then we're going to get into, I wouldn't say, it's advanced, but it's still kind of the 101 of this whole thing, which is agent concepts. And we're going to look at where the documentation site is. We're going to review the architecture, just do like kind of where is all the code? We'll talk about the concepts. I'll show you some of the clients, which are basically how we connect out from this computer out to the rest of the world through Discord or Twitter or whatever. And then I'll show you some of the critical abstractions that make Eliza unique, but not that unique. These are fairly borrowed concepts in agents specifically. I will give you a few, I should add this, like evaluators versus reflection. I'll kind of give you some ideas of like, there's what the sort of standard is, and then what we're doing and how those are kind of related to each other, right? And we're just going to hack our way through. Maybe I'll even, we'll bring this down to the end. And we're just going to make an action, an evaluator, and a provider. And what I want to do is, I was going to do like a get latest news, because I can like go get a news API key. But I was thinking maybe the personality score would be kind of good. And so maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll just have like an action to get the latest news, and we'll try that. Like just get it from an API, see how that goes. And then we can extract personality score from the evaluator. Like, do we like this person? And then we'll add an example provider at the end to actually bring that back into the context for, we do like this person. And I might just like really hack this together, like reading some files out of JSON, like not even using the database or something. I'm just gonna do something stupidly simple. But I think that would be like a good example of how to hack our way through. And maybe I'll change that completely when we get to it, because I decided I hate that. But I think what will be helpful will be to go through and just understand what these three abstractions are and how you could assemble like some really complex stuff just from these abstractions, right? I hope that all makes sense. We are 5 minutes away from getting started here. If anybody has any questions, please post them in the Discord chat. I will repeat your question and then I will answer it. For the Q&A, it would be great if people want to hop up on stage and ask questions, and we can just kind of riff. I have a hard stop at 9 o'clock, so we have to get through all of this content in 3 hours. But I think by the end of 3 hours, you're gonna be bored as shit, or at least of me yapping. So I think it'll be good. I'll certainly be tired. Cool. I'm seeing that always lost some information during agent runtime. I think that was something maybe I should add here is I'll just add agent runtime, just to kind of go over that a little bit. So this is recorded. I will post the recording, assuming that nothing bad happens and I'm able to record it successfully. If anybody else wants to record it too, I would appreciate that. And it will be streamed, so maybe one of the streaming platforms is recording it, but I'm not sure if I said that. People ask me about that. If anybody has any other questions, please feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, we'll kind of start getting into it in just about 4 minutes. I think I will just quickly be right back, let people fill up, and we'll get started right away. I'm going to check the mute just to make sure muting works. And so I will be muted. I'm being told that the video quality is better on YouTube. I'm sad and offended. Okay. If anybody would like to post the YouTube link in Discord, you're welcome to do that. We are ready to begin. It is 2 minutes till 6. I'm just gonna give a little tap in the announcements. Is that what we do? Ancient Dev School is starting now. And let me just probably grab the link to this one. Invites. Okay, I hope people get it. We're doing this. We've got 42 people here. And we probably got some people on X and people on YouTube. Let's roll. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just like the most basic stuff. And if you are a developer, the first hour of this is going to be pretty boring. But I think it's really important that we give everybody just like from the beginning, like what would you do if you had never used like written code before in your life? And I'm just going to start from like that assumption. And I promise that by the end, this will be a 3-hour stream. By the end, we will try to get you up to like, okay, I understand how this stuff kind of vaguely works. I feel like I could learn this myself. That is my true wish, right? So we're going to do more advanced ones after this, and then we'll kind of have people catching up as by watching this recorded. And we'll be doing this in Discord twice a week for about 3 hours as we try to skill up our devs. I think this is going to start mostly with me just giving this like kind of tutorial. And then what I'd like as a format is to actually work through things with devs. We might do like create a new plugin, create a new client, work with some of our partners to do some cool stuff and integrations. Talk about some different just I want to get everything out of my head and into as many of your heads as possible so you can take this and run with this. We are at ground zero of something brand new. If you do this and you run with this, you could change your life and the lives of everyone around you. And there's generational wealth, and then there's like you created an AI that continues to make you generational wealth. If that's your motivation, I really encourage you to get into this now. If you just love AI agents and you just don't know where to start, this is where you start. And yeah, we'll keep going. We'll keep going with this as long as we can, as long as people need help and there's more to teach. Okay, so welcome to the first Agent Dev School. My name is Shaw. I've been developing for a very long time. I got a computer when I was a very small child, and it is just like, it is a second language to me. I write code in many languages. Sometimes I write in Python, sometimes I write in C# or C++ or C. Sometimes I write in Rust. But I truly love JavaScript and the JavaScript ecosystem, and I truly love TypeScript. And we're going to just do a little bit of walk around the internet to kind of start. So there's a guy, and his name is Brendan Eich. And you might know him because he created some cool stuff, including the JavaScript. And let's go to his Wikipedia page. He also is one of the founders of Mozilla, and he created Brave, right? This guy. And famously, he created JavaScript in 10 days. And it did not have most of the features that it has now. And it was like a really, really rudimentary scripting language. At the time, Java was a really popular language, and they wanted to bring the kind of like Java syntax into into the browser, so that browser, people making websites could have some basic control of their website and do some basic interactivity. So he put this together in 10 days, drank a lot of coffee, very famously shipped the first version of JavaScript into Netscape. And it, eventually people forgot that Java as an applet would be a thing, and they just used JavaScript for literally everything, right? So that kind of started with Brendan Eich, and this like 1995, right? I mean, this was way in the early days. And I, as a kid, I grew up in the Bay Area. I had internet when I was like 7. I had JavaScript. I had this in around 1996 maybe. Fast forward, and people realize, wait. What if we run the JavaScript as a server? Because we already all know JavaScript. We've been working with it forever. That sounds pretty good. And so people realized, well, we could actually create a runtime, which is itself written in like C++, but it uses the same engine that we have on in the browser, in any browser. Let me hide this window real quick. Which is we have different JavaScript engines, but the one that we're used to in Chrome is V8, right? The V8 JavaScript engine. And basically Node was like, well, let's just take the V8 JavaScript engine and allow people to run whatever they want. And we can create servers, we can create applications, we can create services, and you can write all of it in JavaScript, and then you can run it anywhere on any computer, right? And so a guy named Ryan Dahl started it, but it became a very large open source project. It's been around since 2009. It's very popular. And pretty much everything like that has happened on in a browser in the recent times, from React to Next.js and Express, all these other popular frameworks are running in Node.js for the most part, or using Node.js to compile down browser JavaScript, right? Some people in the chat have added like a nice fun thread on how Brennan Eich wrote JavaScript in 9 days, not 10. And so I think there's some good stuff if you come to our Discord and you're not there. People are posting some cool stuff in the chat. But yeah, so this starts with the V8 JavaScript engine, which is like, okay, I'm going to run whatever JavaScript you want in this nice little sandbox. And then it's got like unless you want to do specific things on your file system, it gives you like a pretty nice secure sandbox place to run stuff, and just do things, right? Very useful. So Node.js is like, the thing that you install to then run this code. And you can compile applications like .exe from a Node.js application, but typically we just like clone the Node.js application and we run it, right? Cool. So then we come along with this thing called TypeScript. And basically the problem with JavaScript being written in like 10 days, the beauty of it is it's like just the most flexible language. You can do like just the most insane dark art ninja stuff with it. And it's not particularly computationally efficient. It pretty much casts all integers all numbers to be like just the largest size, in memory that any language could do, pretty much by default. It does a lot of things that people don't love, but it's super flexible, and and you can, just jam things through it and make it work. The problem is that it doesn't have types. And so a type would be like, okay, let's say I have a client, right? And I want some things in my client, like, I don't know, it has a name, it has a description and some run thing or whatever, right? So I can have this client type, and I can say, okay, I'm going way too fast. Let's see. Let's just like not even get here yet. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about TypeScript, and then we'll kind of get back into like making a type. But generally, the idea is there's a thing called type theory, and you could have a type like, and your type could be fruit, right? And your fruit has a name and a color, and this would be like a valid type in TypeScript kind of thing. Okay, and then you could also have subtypes, right? You could say type apple, and you could say, well, that's actually a fruit, and it has this other value called is sweet, and so this is a type. But actually, and this kind of is cool because then I could say like, okay, well now I want to have a apple, and I'm going to make a new constant value. I'm sorry, this is going to go way over your heads if you don't know how to code. I'm sorry, but just go with me for a second. I'm going to create this apple, and it has the type apple that I just wrote. And that guarantees, as long as it is the type apple, that it has to have certain values. It has to have is sweet, because that's part of the apple. And it has to inherit everything from fruit, right? Which is name and color. So this and is a logical operator or a Boolean add. It adds the fruit and the new stuff we want into this thing we call an apple. And so this comes from math, from type theory. There's a whole world on that. But essentially, this says, hey, I want a new variable. I could call it var for variable. And if you think in like high school math, like y equals mx plus b, this is just like y, right? Var y. But y is not a value. It's actually an apple, right? Oh my God. And this apple has to have these values, or it's not a valid apple. How could a type not, how could an apple not have a color? That would be ridiculous, right? So this idea of typing is very important to certain languages, like Rust or C++ are statically typed languages, and they determine when you're compiling your code what type things are, and then they check them and yell at you if it doesn't work. Oh, I'm getting some comments here. I'm going to actually add like, what am I using for dev? People are asking what I'm using to to do all this magic. Yeah, I'm using cursor. So I have these types, and this is all great, right? But this actually does. This is like how C++ works, how Rust works, but it's not how JavaScript works. JavaScript is just like var apple equals some stuff, and you kind of just assume like, okay, cool, I put some values in, but there's no contract, there's no requirement. I could say like, I don't know, blah is true, you know. And so this is really cool because it's super flexible. I could just do like something, whatever. I could add any values I want. And this is an object. This is a nice little object. But the problem is what happens if I like do something to fruit, apple. And so if you remember like y equals mx plus b, right? Like just old school high school stuff. What this is actually y equals mx, right? So this is like a function. And that function could actually be like y equal, well, let's just say that there's no mx. It's y equals mx. Instead of m, we'd actually have like do something to fruit. And this is called a function. And what a function does is a function like is something you call on something to then affect it. It could get something, it's basically like a math function, right? It could get something back, it could change a value, it could do anything. And we call a function by like just calling the name of the function like this, and then passing something in. So like a good example of this would be like function do something to fruit, and it just logs the fruit's name, right? But the fruit doesn't have a name, right? So it's like fruit.name. And then if I call this function that's supposed to log the fruit name to console, it's gonna give me an undefined value because there is no name in this apple. And so this is a really like, I know this is very high level if you haven't been a programmer, but I want you to understand that this was a really annoying problem. Well, how do I know that there's a name in this fruit? Every fruit should have a name. Why doesn't this one have a name? Why is it coming back undefined? And many JavaScript developers for many years have been like, why isn't that what I think it is? How do I know that it should be that thing? And more annoyingly, if I type in like fruit and I press dot, it would be really nice if it could show me the things that are in it, like some what's called IntelliSense, right? Like, oh, you should actually give me the options that are available to me, recommended, so I don't have to see how this is like AI recommendation. But generally with IntelliSense, it would actually like, you know, um, say, oh, these are the options in the fruit that you could use, but it's untyped. And so that was the problem with JavaScript, right? It's really useful. Now there's another language that has this same problem called Python. Python is like magically flexible. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it, but it's fundamentally untyped. However, Python added types native to the language. So now you can import typings and you can actually add types as a package into your Python. And that's kind of becoming the trend. The same thing is happening to JavaScript, but it hasn't happened yet. So what we made instead, I believe Microsoft made this, or at least they own it. Yeah, it's designed by Microsoft. Is they wanted to have an experience in JavaScript that was similar to their other languages, like C# and C++. And they wanted, so they basically made this type system that lets you guarantee certain things about your code, right? So I definitely know that if it's a fruit and the argument into this function is a fruit, then it has to have these values. It has to. And it will yell at me and prevent me from compiling my code if it doesn't. It does it like a little type checker. And so these type checker can be ignored. And it's not actually changing the fundamental output code because the browser still has to run the JavaScript and not this TypeScript. But it gives you when you run build, and I say PNPM run build here, it will actually go through and check the types, make sure they're valid, and prevent me from building this if they're not. Give me the warnings and show me what I need to do to correct it, right? So TypeScript basically gives us the benefit of the type safety of other languages like C++, C#, Java, Rust. Gives us this kind of static type safety, but it doesn't actually enforce the types unless we ask it to and run the TS type checker. And it eventually compiles down into the same JavaScript, which is fundamentally untyped, right? So that's why we're using TypeScript. That was a very long thing, but I hope you understand now. We are building this in JavaScript. technically, but it's actually TypeScript that gets compiled down to JavaScript and then run. Okay, so what is TypeScript? It is a typed version of JavaScript that the types actually get stripped out and it gets compiled to JavaScript. Why make an agent in TypeScript? Well, the entire web is based on TypeScript. Now, I mean, sorry, JavaScript. And most developers now who are building with Next.js or React are using TypeScript because they like the typing. It's very popular. And this is becoming, it is the most popular language in the world. Like JavaScript is by far has more developers doing more different things than any other language in the world. And many of the applications you use every day, including Discord, are written in TypeScript. In fact, Microsoft Teams, probably Zoom, a lot of the major communications platforms that need to work in the browser and on your phone are written in a JavaScript runtime, and then they connect down to like a native runtime, like React Native or and with Tori is a good example, Capacitor.js, and they have these plugins which can then talk to the more complicated native code, which is in like C++ or something, or Swift or Objective C, like on an iPhone, or like Kotlin or something like that on a or Java on an Android. And so you can have that code still, but then at the application layer where like devs are actually writing code, then what you're going to end up with is a lot of TypeScript. Most applications now, I think, are tending to be made in TypeScript. Another thing that happened is we got this, is that people figured they could like write apps in Google Chrome. And so things like Discord are actually written in Chromium, right? And that's kind of the old stuff. You can see like, the framework is called Electron. So Electron is a very popular app. It basically runs Chromium. You wrap all your stuff into it and make an application. The newer, hotter stuff is like Tori, right? Which is Rust-based. And you can use Tori to make apps that run anywhere, but then it still runs TypeScript on the front. I love Tori, and I recommend that this is the way to build stuff now. This is the hot new thing. So if you want to build native apps or like bring Eliza or agents to your iPhone, you should definitely look at this. This is the hot. Cool. So I hope that kind of gives you an explanation of like the higher level there. Why are we making agents for TypeScript? It's the most popular language for developers. I believe that worse is better. A lot of agent devs use Python, but TypeScript is really good at streaming. Like I'm dealing with audio streams, and I got some other places. And I'll say when I say TypeScript, I mean JavaScript and TypeScript. It's really good at HTTP, like dealing with browser HTTP stuff. Our agents can run in the browser natively, so you can make games that like call services externally, or call like a completion API for some OpenAI or something like that. But it can actually run in the browser, and it can be running on embedded systems because we can like compile it down with Rust and the V8 runtime. So we can put this kind of anywhere. That's like a big part of what we're trying to do. And I think that flexibility just gives it it's just really a lot harder to deploy Python in certain areas and certain places, and it's just not as flexible. And I think that's really important. The last thing is that TypeScript and JavaScript rock at async. They have great async handling, great async patterns. It's really easy to work with async await patterns in and promises and all that stuff. And Python, the async is just so awkward. It's like you really have to really think out your application a lot more in order to deal with like lots of parallel and asynchronous things happening all at the same time. You can obviously use async IO. I just think that async IO is like just super awkward when I try to use it to make complex apps, and I end up spending a lot of time on async versus like TypeScript. I just find the experience much better. I could be a noob, but that's my take. I've worked enough with both that I feel like I'm not entirely wrong. Okay, so what am I using for development? This is like the next thing. I use Cursor. If you do one thing or learn one thing, it's just like use Cursor. It's so freaking good. Like, it just automatically completes code for you. I could be like, turn this into a poem. It'll just like do whatever I want in any language, whenever I want. It's so freaking good. I highly recommend, in my coding sanctuary, what tools do I see? And the other thing that I use a lot is Claude. And I love Claude. I think I think OpenAI's models are unusable. I don't know about anybody else. But if I'm like, I don't know. I use this all the time. And you can use Claude in here. You can see when I press Command K, which is the cursor and like edit. I can actually choose different models, but I love Opus. I mean, there's a reason why Truth Terminal uses Opus. There's a reason why we all use this. It's got a long context. You could throw like 10 files at it and you could do stuff. Now I want to show you guys something cool. I'm going to go to CD packages core, which is just like our core Eliza brain stuff. And I'm going to type in code to prompt, which is a tool that I have source. And if I make a new file, you will see that I have a tool called code to prompt, which gives me a source tree of all of the files. Look at that. And then it gives me all the source code for the entire thing. And sometimes that will actually fit in the context of Claude in this case. And it'll be like, can you write detailed explanation of how evaluators work? And I can just do crazy stuff like that, or I could ask it to like create a new action. I mean, I shove in, I just use the crap out of this thing, and I actually have 2 Claude accounts because it rate limits me sometimes, especially when I'm like kind of just grinding out a boring project or something. I'm just like, all right, whatever. I'll hand it to Claude. It's my favorite junior engineer. So that's kind of my tooling. I highly, highly recommend using Claude and asking it questions, throwing code at it, asking it to interpret it for you, explain it for you. A lot of the stuff is also built into Cursor, and you could pretty much just get away entirely with building with Cursor, but it doesn't give you out of the box access to Opus. I just like the experience here of having this conversation, and then I'm like, please give me back, please write an example evaluator that extracts the current mood of the agent. Whatever, and I can actually go through and do that. It's pretty good. Cool. So there's a tool called code to prompt. That's what I'm using. You can see it here. There's actually a few code to prompts, but they all kind of work. So like just whatever, use something like that. I like this one. You can go through code to prompt. You see what I did. You just can filter it. You can just get the path you need, whatever you want. And this will create that file tree thing for you, and then you can just paste it in the Claude. And that's like a really fast, nice little way to work, personally. Cool. And you can see it created a mood evaluator, which that's definitely the right structure. This is pretty good. We might come back to this at the end. Maybe we'll use Claude to make our actual examples and stuff, because I don't want to type. Okay, cool, good deal. So we're actually going to install a few things. We talked about Node. Node is a runtime, right, that allows you to execute arbitrary JavaScript, which means you can build apps on it. And it also has a thing called a package manager. And the idea of a package manager is that, well, people have already written lots and lots of code. And you might not know this, but 99% of every app is already written by other people, and we just import it. I'm not kidding. If you actually look at the number of dependencies in code that we write versus what we're importing, it's wild. It's just absolutely wild, right? So for example, in this core, you can see that these are the these are the dependencies. These probably shouldn't all be dev dependencies. No, that's right. These are the main dependencies. So you can see we have Anthropic SDK, Google SDK, Google Vertex, Grok, OpenAI, second Anthropic SDK, because this is the native SDK. This is the AI SDK version of it. Vertex, Fast Embed, a bunch of stuff, right? We have all this stuff. And each of these, like LangChain even, is a whole other library of the same size as this one with a whole bunch of code that does a whole bunch of stuff. And we're just like, yeah, I'm just going to grab LangChain, and I'm going to grab 3 things out of this whole library. But it's like a whole thing, right? I can actually go, let me just go to this because it's kind of fun. And we can go to LangChain.js. And you can see that, well, it's a whole repo, and go into LangChain core, and there's a whole bunch of code, and I go to source. You can see oh my God, each of these folders is, so this repo is probably bigger than our repo, but we're importing it as a package to just use some functionality out of it. And this is how we build stuff at hyperspeed, is that there's already all these packages. And the way that we get these packages is that they're stored on a place called NPM, which stands for Node Package Manager, right? We are, we're using Node. That's our runtime. We need some packages, and we need to manage them. So I can say like npm install LangChain, right? And that's how I would do that install. And it would actually just install all that code into my project. Just done. You're good. You got LangChain now. Then I go to LangChain, right? Or well, what I'll do is actually go to npm. And so this is where all the packages are. And currently, there are 3.3 million packages in the world. Different bundles of JavaScript code that do different things that have been created over the last 10 or 15 years. So I'm going to type in like LangChain. Okay, doke. And we can see that we have the TypeScript bindings for LangChain. You can see we have a whole bunch of different stuff. All these are other packages that are related or not related. And then I can see, click on that, and I can see all of the like information about it, how to get started, blah, blah, blah. And I can see the code base right here. And that's just one package, right? This is like, look, like 5 people spent, months on this one package. And yet that's just one package out of all of these packages. And so this is the beauty of this ecosystem. And Python has the same thing. Just to give some props to Python. In fact, like all of them do now, like have a good package ecosystem. But I think Python also has a really beautiful one, which is called PyPI, the Python Package Index. And you could search the same thing. We could just search LangChain because there's actually a Python version of LangChain too. And you can see it's basically the exact same, right? It's over here. And but this is the power of all of this. This is my spirituality. Random developers who I have never met and will never meet just created some free code so that I could just npm install it effortlessly and have all of this power and capability, right? The npm install LangChain, and that's it. That's all I ever had to do. And now I have all their code done. And there's a whole other team maintaining that, making sure it's secure, just doing their thing, right? Thank you guys. Thank you, LangChain. Thank you, Rollup. Thank you, all these people. Thank you, Mocha. Great. So this thing is called npm. It is the Node Package Manager. And you can run it from the command line by typing in npm. And we actually use npm not just for downloading packages, but also for running our project and like linking all of those packages before we run it. You don't need npm. You can just type in node like whatever.js. And if you made a JS file called whatever.js, it would just work. That'd be fine. But npm is like, okay, I'm actually going to like set all this up, import all the packages. I'm going to run this special command. If I write like npm run start, you'll see that there is a start command here that does a bunch of junk. The npm filter, just call the agent, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of how this all works, right? npm run start runs a script. The script does something that starts up our whole Node.js instance, compiles all the code with TypeScript, and runs it. And so npm is cool, but it has this really annoying problem, which is that we're using something called a mono repo. That means that we have lots of packages inside the same repo. We can make separate repos for each of these. Like we could have a core repo, and that'd be like github.com/ai16z, like Eliza core, or like plug in Coinbase. But it's kind of annoying, and it's really hard to like link up and work on. So we just use what's called a mono repo, and that means we put all of the packages are in this packages folder, like literally all of them, right? We got things for Conflux, for Node, for Solana, for StarkNet, for Farcast or Discord, right? And these are each separate packages that separate teams have made and can like totally work on independently of each other. And each of these packages actually goes onto npm. And if you type in at ai16z, you will see we have packages for each of these. And thank you very much for Lord of a Few for setting all this up. You can see he's deployed all of these. And what's really cool is you can now just install Eliza into your project, just like any of the other packages, just like that LangChain thing I showed you. So you don't even have to, you can stand on our shoulders too. We're standing on the shoulders of all of these projects that came before that made this free code that we all get to use. And then our thing is also free code that you can use. And you can straight up install it into your game, into your like Next.js app, into your front end, into your back end. You can build apps with this. That's the point, right? And it's just part of this bigger ecosystem. Cool. So yeah, that's npm, but it's got this really annoying problem. It downloads those packages that we want to install into each of these into every single node modules folder in every package. And so we end up with this project that's like 5 gigabytes and takes forever to download and install. And it's just really annoying. NPM is also not really good at managing monorepos. It just doesn't, like, they've added some stuff for workspaces, but historically it's been very buggy for workspaces. So some people made another thing called PNPM, which is the performance node package manager. Definitely taking a swipe at them. And it's got a few core differences. It's definitely more security focused, making sure that the packages and package resolution is more correct. It's a little stricter. But primarily what it does is it links packages in so that the packages are shared across all of, not just here, but across your kind of across your PNPM global directory. And again, I could be slightly wrong on this, but this is how I understand it. And that means that instead of copying all of these packages into every single one of your projects, you just need to have one copy of it somewhere and it gets linked in. And that way it's much, much faster to install and to switch packages and do those kinds of things when you're working in this monorepo where you're actually working with lots of packages simultaneously that mostly share a lot of the same dependencies. So you don't have to rebuild the dependencies for each one. You don't have to reinstall it for each one. It's just like a nicer experience. So that's why we use PNPM. It's basically just performant NPM, literally what it says on the tin. And that's you'll see that in our documentation. We try to prevent you from using NPM just because it can miss some of the package linking and monorepo stuff. Cool. Great. So let's get back to our curriculum here. How are we doing? We are 30 minutes in. That's not too bad. Okay, so we're going to talk about WSL. This is only if you use Windows, because the reality is that developing with Node.js and pretty much everything except for I think C++ game development and Unity game development, pretty much everything else really just is easier to build on Linux, especially Node.js and Python, and especially Python. I mean, Python package dependency stuff is the thing that sticks most people when they're starting, far more than writing the code. And so Microsoft realized this and realized that developers hated building on Windows for all this hot new Python stuff. And so they made this thing called Windows Subsystem for Linux, called WSL. Go. And then they made WSL and it was okay, but it wasn't that great. So they made WSL2. And probably what you want is WSL2. And you can see here, you want to make sure, I mean, I'm pretty sure at this point, if you have Windows 10 or 11, I don't even think you can get WSL1. But just so you know, this is kind of the thing you want, is WSL2. And what it does is it lets you run Ubuntu by default and probably other Linux subsystems on your Windows machine as though it is just a Linux machine. And it makes running development so much easier. And a big difference is that, when I say git status, I do some git stuff. This is super easy for me on a Mac because it's basically the same experience as Linux. And I have this nice shell terminal thing. But on a Windows machine, you pretty much just have this command line argument thing, like a command line. And it doesn't really work the same way. And the commands don't work the same way. And it's very confusing and annoying, and it doesn't link things well. And so you're just better off almost using WSL. And pretty much if you are using Windows and you get stuck or you're like, I can't install this, just go install Windows Subsystem for Linux. It'll take you 30 minutes of waiting for it to download Ubuntu, two mouse clicks. It's not hard. And then it will just, everything magically will work better for you. And literally, I don't care if you're doing Eliza, you're doing some Python stuff, you're working in Jupyter notebooks, you will just save yourself a lot of pain if you use WSL instead of trying to raw dog Windows. Cool. This is very widely accepted, I believe. So now we're actually going to get into some of the dirty of this. We're going to install some stuff. So we want to install Node.js, right? We'll just say install Node.js. Cool. How to install Node.js. And one thing that's nice, you can see install it on WSL, right? But we're gonna see here. And there is a thing. Installing Node.js is kind of annoying because they update every version of Node.js quite regularly. And then you're like, how do I manage all of these versions? Which version do I have? How do I get the next version? Very annoying. So somebody made this thing called NVM, which is Node Version Manager. And this is at github.com/nvm-sh/nvm. And Node Version Manager is going to let you install different versions of Node. Who would have thought? But it's also just a really easy way to install any version of Node. So I'm just going to go here, and it's a little bit wordy, blah, 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 table of contents, don't care, intro, don't care. I mean, this is kind of useful. I can see like some commands. What I really care about is this. I know that maybe you aren't very familiar with terminal, and you really shouldn't take things and like run them off of in like a curl just randomly without knowing what it is. But this is a very popular and well-known thing, so I recommend this. So we go here, and I'm just going to curl NVM. Curl is a command line tool on Linux and Mac that allows you to call HTTP requests, including like download this file. What we're doing with curl here is we're downloading a file. You can see that is downloading this -o- install.sh, and then it's running the install.sh. This is called a pipe. It's piping this code, right, whatever's in this .sh file, into this bash command, right? And what that does is it just automatically and magically installs NVM. And once you have NVM, I can see NVM-v. I can see NVM use. Let's see. What is something? Doesn't really. I guess I have to give it an argument for it to do something. So I could be like NVM use 23, and that's going to use Node 23, which I think is the latest ish, right? You can also do. I think it's NVM update 23. But what you probably want to use. No, that's probably wrong. What you really want to use is like NVM install 23. That's what you're going to want, right? You're going to want to go install 23. And then once it's installed, it should by default use that one because it's installed, but you can then use the NVM use 23. And this is really nice if you're like having annoying frustrations where one project you have is like Node 18, and the other one's Node 22. You can like just, NVM use 22, sure, switch. And then it'll go, and that's it. Now I'm on 22. And globally across this, like when I run stuff, it's now running in Node.js 22. I'm going to go back. So NVM is how you install Node. You will need to use a command line, but you're going to have to use that to start a lot of stuff. So time to get used to it. You copy this, one of these, curl or wget, whichever one, they'll both work on most Linux. You paste that in, you run it, that means you have NVM. You might need to create a new terminal if it doesn't, if when you run NVM, it doesn't do anything. Once you've run NVM, you can say NVM use or NVM install whatever you want, 23. You can then NVM use 23, and then you're installed. You've installed Node.js on your computer. That's kind of the first step, right? Now, what's cool is you get NPM for free with Node.js. It hasn't always done this, but as of like the past many years, NPM ships with Node.js by default. So you have access to NPM and NPM install, like I want to add a package, whatever you want. But we don't get PNPM for free, right? We have to install PNPM. Cool. However, if you've already installed Node.js, never mind, I'm actually not going to say that. I think the easiest way is, again, to come here and get the curl, right? So POSIX systems, POSIX is like a compatibility layer. POSIX compatible would include Mac OS and Linux and Unix and other systems in that kind of world. Windows is not POSIX compatible, I believe, but WSL2 is because it's using Ubuntu. So this is probably what you want. But if you are using Windows, you can use PowerShell and you can call the invoke web request. I just really hate this syntax coming from Linux world. So I'm going to go grab that, and I'm just going to install PNPM, and it's going to install the latest. And after that's good, we'll have PNPM, and we can do all of our stuff, right? So if we go to our Eliza repo, let me scroll down, see the features and use cases, great. But we just want to get started. Here's our starter. So you'll notice that we have this Eliza starter, which is just like, you don't have to worry about changing the code that's already there. You're not developing, you're trying to build your own agent. We actually do give you a starter kit, right? And you can just click on that. And this has some instructions for, if you want to get started, you need to copy the .m.example to .m. And then you need to install PNPMI and then PNPM start. You can also, this repo right here is ai16z/Eliza. This is more the advanced mode, but this allows you to, I'm being told that my screen's not showing the website. Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. I wonder if it's doing display capture. Strange. It works. People are saying they see it. Okay, whatever. Anyway, maybe this is, I can hack this. I can just go to the README here. I'm just right here in the README, and I have a markdown plugin, so I can markdown preview, open preview. Yeah, like that. Love her. This is what I'm looking at here. Is it frozen? It seems like it's not updating. I'm gonna try and restart capture. I think now it's working. Okay, I think capture froze. I think it was working on Discord, but it wasn't working in OBS. Okay, cool. So anyway, we fixed that. Kind of, I hope I didn't miss other important stuff. But anyway, so we have the prerequisites here. Obviously, we're talking about using the starter. So we have this Eliza Starter Kit that you can use. And that, just like get started with that. Where did it go? Eliza Starter. Oops. You can use this repo right here. You just copy the .env example to .env and you install and you start. And that's like going to get you going. But if you want to do development on Eliza, the like core tech, you got to install from, you got to clone this like base repo. So I'll just show you the difference really quick. Hopefully my code switches over. Yes, great. So if I go to the Eliza starter, you'll see this is the starter repo right here. And you can just clone this. Doesn't have a lot in it. You can pretty much just clone this and hack it and go nuts. You don't have to worry about all the rest of the code. We just ship this so that you don't have to edit and fork the core code base. You can use this as your starter. And there will also be like a create Eliza app thing coming too. So it's just very, very easy. And then if you want to work on the core meat and potatoes code base, that's all here, right? This is your editing packages, you're adding plugins, you're doing some real development. And so there's kind of a difference between the people who are like editing the core, adding functionality, and people who just want to like work on their own agent. That's what this Eliza starter is for. Now, if you look in the package JSON, which is the manifest of all packages that are imported, you'll see that the Eliza starter imports all of this stuff off of NPM. So these are all on NPM, and then they get installed into here. So we're working on this code somewhere else, right? This is all getting cooked in our main repo, and you don't have to worry about that. That's all just NPM installed. You don't have to look at it. It's not in the source folder. This is like really lightweight starter. If you just want to make an agent or make your own plugins and you don't want to like share that back or anything, you're not trying to add it to the repo, you can just like throw it in here. Cool. Hope that helps. Now, new pull request. Eliza intern added some quick start instructions. So if people make changes, they can submit pull requests, and then we can review those pull requests and we can actually merge the code in, and I can go and see what they changed. See, I can see like, okay, how to edit the character file, custom characters, add clients, all this important information. Very cool. And you can see they gave us a default character example for Eliza. And I don't, I see that it's just JSON and MD change. No malicious code could possibly be here. So I'm just going to YOLO that, right? And I can confirm that. And that's how I merge code in. And now this Eliza starter has been updated. Cool. I'll get into a Git in a little bit. Sorry, that was a little bit of an aside, but I just thought it was fun. And you can see now, oh, that's a little problematic. We'll have to fix that. Yeah, so this is the kind of the starter thing. Let's go back here to our main repo, and you can see that we have instructions for how to start the starter, how to start this repo, and like just load everything. This loads from the last tagged release, so that even if we broke main, this would still work for you because we know that this release definitely worked when we released it. You should definitely follow all of the instructions here, even after you've watched this. You can see you can like edit the environment variable file and copy it over .env. You can start the script with this or type PNPM run start, which will also start this, etc., etc. You can see this is like all the stuff for getting started. And we're going to go through this in a second. This is the repo. In the meantime, PNPM installed. I can type in PNPM and it will just do some stuff. And so there's a few things that like you always do. If you clone a repo, you always like install, and that's going to install all of the packages that are in the package JSON. Package JSON is like all the code I want to import into my project lives here, right? So I can type npm pm install, and that's going to happen. And that's going to start cooking. But I want to go back a little bit, and I want to start. Now that we've had all of our dependencies installed, we installed Node, and that came with npm. We then installed npm. I want to clone the Eliza repo from scratch. I want to show you guys a couple of examples. Somebody's asking, can we use the starter kit for tweeting? Yes, you can use the starter kit for tweeting for sure. It should be easier to use than cloning the whole repo, and it has everything in it. It's fully featured. It just is less customizable and less hackable because it's more like you're just working on your agent. So we're going to clone the Eliza repo. We're going to switch branches, pull some changes, just like some basic Git stuff. I'll just get you kind of walking up to speed on that. Oh yeah, what is Git? And we'll talk about GitHub a little bit because I've been using GitHub and you're probably like, what the hell is that? Like, GitHub is scary. So I'm just going to walk you guys through this. Okay, so this guy named Linus Torvalds, he made a little thing called Linux. It was very popular. People started contributing to it. I'll just type in Linux wiki. It's probably fun. And it's got a little penguin. This guy named Linus Torvalds, he's a very interesting character. Very passionate man. Let's just say that. And brilliant programmer. And he had this problem, which is that all of these developers are contributing to Linux, and they're all in their own like little worlds. And then he has to like take their code and integrate it into the main source code, into Linux, and make sure that none of it breaks anything else, and that he can track who changed stuff and go blame them if it's wrong, and make sure that this whole thing fits together, even though there's hundreds of people all over the world working on this, right? Huge, complicated problem. And he's like, and there's all of these people saying, okay, what we need is this complex version control. It needs to be like this IQ 5000 genius thing. And he's like, no, y'all are idiots. And because of that, I'm going to make this tool called Git, because you're all like Gits. I'm a Git. We're all Gits. And which is kind of just a euphemism for an idiot or something. And over like the course of a weekend, he makes Git. And Git is a very simple tool to version control your code in a very simple way so that you all can collaborate, right? It's kind of famous for this, being this version control tool that allows lots of developers to work together. Many other people tried. There's, Plastic SCM. There's, a ton of these different like kinds of tools. But fundamentally, Git really won, and anybody can make a Git server. So then some people come along and they're like, well, Git's pretty cool. Devs are going to want this. We should just make a website that lets people use Git super simply and like point their remote to us, and we'll host their GitHubs for them or their Gits for them. And that website was GitHub. And so GitHub is not associated with Git. It is a separate thing. They took Git, the open source project, and they hosted it so that you could get it anywhere and you didn't have to run a Git server. And this was obviously a wildly popular idea. And people realized that they could use this for kind of manage all of their ops. And it just became the, like the center of everything. And Jin saying Git is the GitHub as porn is the Pornhub. I think that's pretty good. We can do lots of cool stuff in Git now. We can write issues, which are like, hey, there's a bug, or hey, I've got this idea for a feature. And if you would like to submit a bug that you have, please come here and write an issue. And even better, go search for your issue. Like, go search for open Twitter issues. Twitter cookies do not match the docs, right? Okay, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you can be like, oh, I have this issue as well. And people will often just say that as +1. That's very popular. If you see +1, that's what that means, right? And you can comment, you can complain, you can do all kinds of funky stuff here. You can also submit code back to the main repo. And what we call these are pull requests. We call that because you're saying, hey, I'm requesting that you, the central developer, pull my code in and apply it onto the repo and make it part of the code base. So that's called a PR or a pull request. Sometimes they're also called MRs or merge requests. You can have a full wiki discussion. You could converse and write things, and wow, people are actually using this. I should probably check this out. So you can have long discussions about stuff and figure things out and go through detail. You can This is my favorite. You can actually manage all of your projects and all of your project management right here in GitHub. And it's good. Look, it's got Kanban. This is called Kanban. It's got these like kind of, or like a Trello board style thing. You can be like, okay, cool. I want to put the newsfeed on the backlog. Gotta have that. You can go to roadmap. You can actually like roadmap out. I'll show you a better roadmap. I think Mark is it's private, but we're not really hiding anything. You can see we got some stuff in progress to do. Got the basically like making sure that everybody has enough. Marco's taken on maybe a little too much. We can just focus on the current iteration. What do we have to get done just for this week? And we can also do this roadmap. We can see like, okay, well, this is what we're getting done this week, and these are the issues we're getting done that week. I just love, and I can see what is assigned to me. And actually, I've completed all my deliverables in this, so we're chilling. But I love this. It's a great way to manage projects, right? We can also, let's see, go back, and we can do things like set up actions. And an action is like, hey, every time I commit to the main branch, go deploy the latest version to the website, or to whatever my thing is. So yeah, GitHub is like, even if you don't know how to code, I think if you can just run Git and run GitHub and run NPM, you can just do like everything. You can get your way around the ecosystem, right? So I think that's really, really important. And a lot of projects, especially in open source land, are obviously working this way. I want to show you guys something else, which is that GitHub has GitHub pages. And Jin has spent a lot of effort making sure that we have a really nice documentation site. And you can go, even though this is hosted on GitHub pages, right? GitHub.io. This is all of our docs, and it's kind of like our Gitbook-like thing, right? So thank you, Jen. It's truly beautiful. Look at this. It's got all of the information you could want. I highly recommend you go through here and read all this. Or if you're super lazy, you could go to like CD docs, code to prompts, the docs, or let's say source. And then you could be like, okay, I'm going to go to Claude, and I'm just going to be like, on Claude, like, how do evaluators work? And then it will be like, blah, 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 right? So don't feel like you have to read the docs. You can have the AI read the docs for you, but just showing you some tricks. But everything is here. Guides to how to get set up, all the things we do, how to do fine tuning if you're into that. Like we actually provide, enable this stuff. It's all here, and if it's not all here, it should be. And please feel free to make pull requests. And like this is a big part of what we're sort of advancing right now, so users can get deeper into this. Okie doke. Let's go back to our stuff. So I think I got through like the difference between Git and GitHub. I think you understand. Now let's actually get something from GitHub, right? So we are on this Eliza repo, and you can see that there's a lot of buttons, and it's kind of scary. Oh my god. If you wanted to make your own and start working on it, and you weren't a contributor, you can go to fork, and then you can fork it, and you can put it on your own. You can create a fork of it on your own like personal repo. You'll see it's going to take a while, and then you can just start contributing, like pushing to that, and it's completely separate copy of the original. But what's cool is because it's forked, you can sync it from the upstream. It still has a relationship, so you can work on your favorite thing and then pull all of the changes as we work on them into this, right? So it's like a nice kind of way to say like, hey, we're cooking on our own thing, but it's still got this relationship. And what's really cool is you can go into insights and you can see like all of the forks. And I mean, this is like the craziest thing, right? Like network is one of my favorite features of GitHub. So you're like, cool. Now I clone this. I'm working on my fork. You don't have to make your own fork though. You can just clone the main repo also. But if you wanted to push changes to your own thing and keep them separate, you would want to make a fork. And you can see that there's all these developers. Oh, this is actually I want the Eliza repo. You can see there's all these developers working on their own thing. That was cool. But I also want to see. It's probably only going to show us the 100. But yeah, I'd love to see, like, this is kind of crazy for the Eliza repo because we have a lot of forks, about 600 forks. Cool, good deal. And you can see like, Shaw pushed this split client terminal. There's some other people working on, Lord of Fuse working on his Eternum fixes for his open source Starkware game. You can see somebody's like, check if the tweet's already responded. They probably were just fixing some Twitter stuff on their fork. And you can actually see all of these people are working independently on their own things. Like, look at this. All of these developers are doing their own code. on their own thing, and they've taken our repo and they've run with it with a fork. And sometimes we'll be like, hey, that's really cool. Like, damn, you added Moonshot? Wait. You added Moonshot. I don't know if they did, right? But let's say they did. And I'm like, holy crap. They're like, this is fire. I can actually go to their repo and I can look at like the Moonshot branch, and I can see that they've done like 72 things here. And I can actually like I can pull request this back into our thing. I can be like new pull request. This is wild, right? And I can just pull their code back into the upstream, right? Look at this. And now I have like they're doing all this crazy stuff. And I can just be like, cool, make a PR and pull that code up, review it. And they don't even have to make a pull request themselves because they're just coding in the open like we are. And now we have this ecosystem. We can all share code and we can all like take our favorite features and implement them and stuff, right? Yeah, I love this. I absolutely love this part of it. And you can also see from these commits, this is like the commit message. They're working on like Coinbase, tip user wallets, wallet send. Oh, this is pretty good. Very good stuff. WebSockets for ticker search. Oh my God, they're on fire. So yeah, this is what's happening in our ecosystem and how we kind of see it. And this is why GitHub is so freaking beautiful, right? You can even see like ICO is wait. ICO is open source. Holy shit, ICO is open source. Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of the vibe, right? I hope that makes sense. Now we're actually going to just clone our repo. So yeah, you could fork it, you could edit the fork, but you could also just like, I just want to do some stuff. I just want to edit this thing. I don't want to worry about it. So I can go here, and if I click code, you'll see that it gives me some options. I can do GitHub CLI. I think I have that installed. Git repo clone. And I have to give it a name because I already have an Eliza folder. So I'll just, So I have GitHub CLI installed, so that works. That's fine. I can also, if I just have Git, which is default, installed on a lot of Linux machines and stuff, I can type in git clone and then just type in that URL. I have to do the same thing. I have to do Eliza too. Git clone that URL and then add some name for where it clones to. Seems fine. I could do SSH if you're into that. And there's also, if you are really scared of the command line, you're just like, I don't want to deal with it. There is a thing called GitHub Desktop, and it's just like a nice, app. It looks like an app. It's not scary. I don't want to download it. I'd like to see it. It looks like this. It's really boring. You can like see all your files and stuff. Just get GitHub Desktop if you don't want to deal with the CLI. And then if you do that, you don't have to clone. You can just download it with the CLI from that button. And that would look like this. You just open it in GitHub Desktop. You can, you can just download the zip file and start editing it. I highly recommend you don't do that, this download. It's just going to cause you so many problems. It has no connection to source control. If you accidentally mess up your code, you can always fix it with source control with Git. Like you can always go back, you can always revert. But you cannot, if you download the zip and you edit it, it's just like its own, it's like editing files on your local. If you like save over and you close it, there's no getting it back, it's gone. So I don't recommend downloading with zip. I recommend opening with GitHub Desktop or cloning it. So just real quick, yeah, sorry if I'm going real fast. I'm trying to fit this into a pretty short period of time. So git clone Eliza 2, right? Oh, we already did that. So git clone Eliza 2. That's usually how I clone a repo. And you can see it just downloads the objects. Pretty good. It's pretty good. Okey-doke. So that'll take a while. Once you've cloned it, it makes a folder that you have to go into. So I remember I call it Eliza-2 new. So I'll cd, which is change directory on a POSIX compatible machine, like a Mac or Linux, into Eliza-2 new. And then I'm going to type in code space dot, or if you have cursor space dot. But I actually made it so the code space dot opens cursor. And that opens up a new folder with Eliza-2 new. And I'm in this fresh repo, right? So if I go ls, I see some files, that's just like what's in here. PNPM install. That's the first thing I do. And you can also type PNPM I. That's going to install all of the packages that are inside of the package.json for me, right? And it's going to go through and it's going to find all of the packages. There's 3,600 installed in this project. There's only like maybe a few hundred, but then those have a few hundred, those have a few hundred, and it scales up. It gets pretty big. You can see then it's going to install. It's going to run all these install scripts. And then we're just going to have everything fresh, ready to go. Cool. This is the most boring part of Node.js developments. Waiting for the install. Now, obviously, I have a version that's already running. I could just be like, oh, and I pulled one out of the oven. That might not be the worst thing. If I go back to here, I have the exact same thing here, like same code, blah, blah, blah. So I won't pull it out of the oven. I'll go back to the install one, don't worry. I've got a fresh install. I went PNPM install after cloning, and now I've cloned the repo. I've installed the dependencies, and now I'm ready to dance. Now, Jin is bringing up something really important, which is if you just install like this, you're installing the main branch. And I am not guaranteeing that the main branch works because we move real fast. And a lot of things could happen that could mess up the main branch that might cause you some issues. So what we did was we made a much simpler way for you to get this. If you look at these releases, we regularly release new releases, and each one has like a change log. We just started this, so it's pretty new, but this will have like what changed in it, what's new, and it's definitely stable. Like we definitely tested that and know that that works. So if you want to get if you want to actually get the working code, not the latest, you're not committing to the main branch, but you just want the thing that works that you can cook. You actually probably want to do this command. What this is going to do is it's going to get the latest tag, which is version 0.1.4 alpha 3, right? So we are now on this branch. And when I change branches, oftentimes I find that I have a weird problem. That problem is that we've already built some old stuff and it kind of creates some type issues. We're going to try and clean this up. But in the meantime, what we do is we run PNPM clean. And that's just going to run this clean script, which is going to delete all the junk. Even though I installed it, it's like delete all the installed stuff, and then we'll install again. You don't have to clean unless you like changed your branch. And remember, I was on main, and then I switched over to a release, and I just want to make sure that I change my branch when I do that. And I'm pretty sure if I type in clean, you'll see that this project iterates fast. Sometimes you need to clean the project if you're coming back to it, right? That's very important. So, oops. I'll then run PNPM install again. That should install everything we need. And then I'm going to run PNPM run dev. Now, we have PNPM run start, and that will run the agent, just the agent running, but it assumes that you've already built. And so this is probably something we need to make sure. And then we also have dev. And so very commonly, if you clone some other repo, like, I don't know, Next.js starter, right? And I just have some like Next.js Twitter starter thing, right? Next.js is a front end. It's actually a full stack application development with Node.js, TypeScript, and React. And this would be like if you want to log in on the front end with like a Twitter API thing, whatever. This is just some project. But if I go into here and I click on package.json, you'll see it has a dev and a start and a build. And these are scripts. So pretty much every NPM Node.js project you can kind of just go into even without looking at it. And lots of people do this, and it's terrible. They just type in like, I don't know, PNPM run dev, right? I don't know. I just downloaded this. I didn't even look. Just dev. That's probably right. And we'll see if it works. Now, it's having some build errors. And the reason it's having build errors is because it's not finding some of the types. This is something we have to fix. We have this in the installation instructions. But we actually have to build. This is the thing we're missing. We're missing the build. We have to build all of the packages. Then all of these type errors, if you see these, you should know it's because you didn't run build, right? So then we'll run build. Do. It's very slow. Or, it's not parallelized. We could probably fix some of this, make it faster. But right now it's a little slow. Cool. All right, great. And now we should be able to run start or dev. Start will start the agent. Dev will try to create everything into like a watch mode. Somebody's saying maybe turbo repo it. If you want to add turbo repo, please make a pull request. I think it badly needs developer experience around that thing I just showed you. That would make it so that it pretty much just like automatically watches and updates the dependencies and stuff as we need it. We just haven't put that in yet. So here I am. Hey, what's up? And you can see, well, it's throwing an error because I don't have an API key for the bearer auth. And this is for OpenAI. It seems to be defaulting to OpenAI. Not sure why, but I'll have to get an API key to call this. That's okay. This seems like everything worked. So that's from here. If I run npm run start and I get that, registers all the services, you can see it's registering all the actions, it's creating the character, where you are there, and then you can see you, and I can say, hey, what's up? And if I have an API key, it'll actually run the completion. So we'll get to that in a second. Oh, right, because we're on an old branch. We actually on the release branch, not the main branch that we're on now. So that's why it's defaulting to OpenAI, but now it just defaults to local models, and it'll actually download the local models. So, but we won't worry about that. Okay, let's go back to our to-dos. Apparently, I'll just write them here. Actually, I have to open this. Cool. We're working on a fresh repo, even though it's the same as the one behind. So we pulled all the latest changes, and now we start to get it. We've like I've gotten you through just like the 101 of like literally any in Node.js project, any JavaScript, TypeScript, NPM, Node.js, whatever. That all is going to be the same. Everything you just saw is going to be the same for all of them. You need Git, you need GitHub, you need NPM, you might need PNPM, you need Node.js installed, you need Node version manager so that you can manage the versions of Node.js, just the easier way to install. You need all that stuff, but that could be for literally any app you make. This is now, I think, where we get into the stuff that is unique about our project. Generally, these concepts there's some version of these concepts in every agent framework. They're just slightly different. And I'll talk about like kind of the main branch version of those concepts and then sort of our take on those. And maybe I'll try not to spend, I don't want to be too windy about it, but like why would we choose those things? Why wouldn't we just do the stuff that's in all the papers? So I'm gonna just take I would like to let's see. No, we'll go through the character and then we will run the character and we'll add the character Discord. I'm just gonna take a 1-minute break, use the bathroom, and we will get back to it. Also, if you guys want to just fill up the chat with questions that you have, I'll answer a few questions before I jump into the character creation and talk about that for a little bit. Then we'll do a QA if we want to. Maybe we'll cut the QA till the end on time and we'll just get into the real meat and potatoes. Cool. So I'll be right back in 45 seconds or so. I'm also going to take 2 bites of this amazing Indian food that's in front of me. Okay. I realized that I'd like to just talk about, well, let's see. I'm just gonna, if anybody has any questions, we'll just answer a few of those before we jump into it again. Let's see. Question: risk involved in update from repo could destroy the project if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, totally. I think I need to cover something really important, which is every hour you spend struggling to do something without knowing how to do it is like you could basically spend the hour learning how to do it and then do it in 5 minutes, and you would actually have learned how to do it forever, and you would have maximized your time. And so the way that I learned to program is that I literally just watched thousands of hours of YouTube videos. I learned to program before the invention of AI, and I learned to program basically at the dawn of YouTube. And it was really, really hard to find YouTube videos at first, but then there was kind of an everything all, and like there is YouTube videos for everything. So if you want to know Git, this is the superpower. You can literally matrix it into your brain. It is so, so important that you learn how to teach yourself stuff. You can learn anything. You can literally learn anything, but you can definitely learn it on YouTube with tutorials. Like I love Mosh. Mosh is great. Programming with Mosh. Here's a 1 hour GitHub tutorial on how to use Git, how to clone repos, change branches, make your own stuff, submit pull requests, all that stuff is in here, right? And you can pretty much just spend like 2 hours and then you will just know it. The other thing is like, if you don't know a Git command, I'll just go to OpenAI for a second. I do use it for this stuff. And I'm just like, I need to check out, I need to stash my current changes, which is like hide them for a second. I'll even say like, let's say you didn't even know what stash was. Put away my current changes, change to the branch, test branch, and apply those changes onto that branch, right? Can you give me a git command for that? And like, just learn these tools, use this stuff. Literally, it's going to be like, yeah, bam, git stash, okay, git checkout, and then git stash apply. And I can just copy that and, paste that right in and it's going to work. So obviously, YouTube is, OpenAI, ChatGPT, and Claude are super, super useful for this and for asking questions and all that. But you really do need to go to YouTube and like just watch other devs build. Watch how they build. Like learn all of this stuff. You need to learn Git. It's just so freaking important. I mean, like I think everyone in high school should learn Git because it's the difference between not being able to do something and being able to do something. You can also say like TypeScript tutorial, right? And maybe we'll do Node.js TypeScript tutorial since that's very commonly used together. You can see like TypeScript with Node.js. And this guy made an entire tutorial series on how to do this. It's got nice music, 42,000 views. He's chilling.
Let's see how we can set up
Great.
Node.js.
Very boring. But this is how you learn. And I'd recommend watch them fast, watch them slow. But for any of the topics that we just covered, this is how I learned how to program. I think this is the best way to learn how to program. I don't think that going to school for this is as good because this stuff changes so fast. I look at like the curriculums and they're still forcing kids to spend a year in Java. And like that's just irrelevant, like come on. Unless you want to have a soul-sucking job, you're never ever going to see Java. You're pretty much going to use Python and JavaScript and stuff like that, or Rust or something. So you want like a Solana contract tutorial. Yeah, you want to write some Solana contract codes. Sure, right here. Look at this. Look at this guy, Josh. He's fucking shit right here. Fuck yeah, Josh. So you get into Rust, you get into all that stuff, like literally anything you want. Just use YouTube. If you have any questions or you're unsure and you're like, I'm going to kill my code base, go learn for a bit. Just take a break, go learn something, and you'll come back and you'll be like, I know Kung Fu. I swear to God. Really, anybody can learn this stuff. It's literally just information you have to get from in the computer into your brain, and then it's done. It's not about IQ or capability or where you came from. You could literally be a nobody and you could be the best, most fucking cracked programmer because you just like spent a lot of time on this. And it's kind of like a video game. I really, really, really want to see you guys like using this stuff and learning. Jen's asking JavaScript and Python are high level. Wouldn't C or ASM or like assembly or something be complemented? Yeah, absolutely. Most like machine learning stuff is actually Python running C++ code, which is written like CUDA is a variant on C for it's a compute library for uploading things to GPU. I mean, I don't know if it's a variant on C, but it's basically at least when I've used it, I'm importing it into C++ and then I'm writing like CUDA files and it's code that runs on a GPU, right? I'm pretty sure it's a variant of C++. Um, and you know, like you're gonna need to learn some low level primitives if you want to write fast performant like machine learning code. You might want to write CUDA, and that's like a whole thing. But you could also just be like, I don't know, CUDA tutorial, right? Assembly is like what you know is the raw instructions that you can use to like do very performant stuff. And if you look at a game like Doom, where every single clock cycle counted, Carmack would write assembly for like the really tight loops that needed to be super efficient, and then write the rest in C or C++, right? So he's like kind of mixing those sort of things together. And what you know, you can compile C down to assembly because it's just like raw telling the processor to do this, do that, jump back and forth, whatever. But generally, you don't see a lot of assembly in what we do. If you're doing like reverse engineering or hacking, I mean, like kind of white hat hacking, or like you know, getting at the heart of like how a virus works or something, you're going to use a lot of assembly, or like low level embedded hardware, a lot of assembly. You know, so I think it's a really good thing to learn because it shows you what's actually going on. And even like C++ and C are like pretty abstract. Like they're doing a lot for you. And you start to really see the internals of that when you work in assembly. So anyway, I don't mean to get, I'm just kind of riffing, but getting asked some questions. Um, so yeah, I love YouTube. I think you can learn anything here. I don't think you should worry too much about learning everything, but if the more you learn about every little thing, the more it's going to come back to give you some synthesis into other stuff. Let's get back to business. I don't want to stay too long on Git and show you too much Git because you can literally go learn it on YouTube. Okay, cool. Did the kind of QA. Somebody's asking, I don't see the terminal in the down section on cursor. Um, mm, Probably looks like that. I don't know. No. Usually it's like there's some things here. Try pressing that terminal button to see it. If you don't see it, I think Yikes is saying it's Control T. Good one. What are the steps for npm and PNPM clone again? Well, you'd say like git clone https github.com/ai16z/Eliza. Eliza's test. That's the clone, right? You run that. That clones it to the Eliza test folder. So I'm going to go back into here. cd eliza-to new. And then I can make PNPM install and PNPM run build. Remember, that's just how that part works. This is also in our documentation, so you can just kind of go step by step. Cool. Any other questions before I get back into it? Let's see. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, let's get back into it. Okay, so creating a character. This is where we get into like our stuff, our actual semi-unique stuff. The character files that we use could be imported into any other compatible agent framework if there was one. It's not really anything specific to us, and the character file spec is something we work on sort of separately, but I'll show you what that kind of looks like. So we have a couple of default characters. We have Tate and we have Trump. And then we have like if you just run it, the default character is in this core package, and this is Eliza. And so we can just we'll just look at this and talk about it for a second. All good. I'm just checking the chat. Okay, so I'm going to show you the two different versions of this that we have. The first version is that we have this default character file, and it has remember when I talked about types at the beginning and TypeScript? This character is the type. The type is character. And if I command click on it, I go to the type definition. And that type definition shows me all of the things that could be in the character. Now, if there is a question mark, that's called optional, right? It's an optional value, or I guess, yeah, I don't know. It's an optional. And I guess it's an optional property. If it's a part of a type, it would be a property, I think is correctly. So it doesn't have to have an ID, but it could. A character has to have a name, no question. It could have a username, and if it doesn't, we'll just default back to the name. It could have a system prompt, which you might know from like other, like OpenAI. You can edit the system prompt, but it doesn't have to have a system prompt in the character. It does have to have a model provider. On the model providers, again, a type, you can have OpenAI, Anthropic, Grok, the other Grok, Llama Cloud, Llama Local. This is like actually the new default in the latest. You can have Google, just regular Google like Gemini. You can have Vertex or call Claude from Vertex. Red Pill, which is like a wrapped, you basically pay tokens to call OpenAI and other models. It's kind of cool. You can have OpenRouter, which is a very popular, I think that's what Truth Terminal uses, is to like contact Claude through OpenRouter. You can contact any model that's there as long as you pay for it. Ollama, which is a way to run local models outside of this repo and then connect to them through like a little server connection. So you can just run any model you want. And then Hurist, which is a, by the way, this is a free option. They're giving us free inference if you use this. And they're going out and calling models in a decentralized way. So it's a decentralized inference option. I think it just calls Llama, and it is free to use if you want something. So we're also working on things like working with Infura. I would love to work with BitTensor. We have a whole bunch of other ones we haven't even brought in yet or merged. So we'll be adding like pretty much every model provider you can imagine. And it's pretty easy to add one. You just go and, say add one like Infura, and Infura is cool because they will, or Prime Intellect would be a good one. Infura like lets you run their software on your computer and then just start serving inference to other people for tokens. But yeah, there's a lot. Whatever. The model provider is basically like, what are you using to do completions? I do not recommend OpenAI. Their stuff sucks. I wish it didn't suck, but like their models are so bad for characters that I find them basically so cringe they're unusable. I really recommend like Grok's great, Anthropic, which is Claude, is great. Llama Cloud with which we use together.ai for is really good. Llama's great. All these options are good and basically let you run, whatever. I think Gemini kind of sucks. It's fine. It's just like not very. It refuses a lot of more, let's say, creative requests. But Claude on Vertex is great because then you can get like special deal and you'll get rate limited. Blah blah blah. Okay, good deal. I don't want to get too stuck on that. Yeah, the one thing about Gemini that's cool is it has a 2 million token context window, which is 10 times the size of Claude, which is twice the size of OpenAI. So you can put in like in the entire constitution and and a bunch of other documents and get back like a full write-up if you wanted to. Okay, doke. I just want to see character file is bad. I think that's the problem. I could be wrong. Anyway, whatever. Sorry, typing in the chat. Okay, so model provider is very important. You can put your settings here. Some settings are loaded just from like the voice, but most of the settings end up in secrets. Like if you want to have your Infura API key and all that. In the default character here, this is going to default to using your environment variables, like whatever's in your environment. But if you wanted to make multiple characters or make them out of JSON, you might want each one to have different Twitter credentials and Discord credentials. And so using the environment variables is not really a very good way to manage each character having their own secret. We have a new thing coming in, which will let you put all your secrets in your environment and namespace them by the character name. So you'll be like, like Eliza dot OpenAI API key, right? Equals. Or whatever. And this would be like in your secrets. But we don't have that yet. So generally what we do with these set is we put our secrets here, right? For API keys and blah, 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 blah. Then we have our system. So this is like the system prompt you might see in OpenAI. I think just go here real quick so you can kind of see that. If I go to settings, that used to be not here, but now I think it is. I can do custom instructions. And this custom instructions are essentially the system prompt, right? This is what's used in place in this case. Or I think in Claude, it just has a system prompt and you can edit that system prompt. I never do. I really don't even know how to. Probably something down here. Settings. What personal preferences? So this is like the system prompt. I typically write code in TypeScript, blah, blah, blah. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Actually, I don't know where they put it, but it does work in the API. So we have a system input. Now we have this bio stuff. And the way the bio works is you could just have one bio and it will just, it will use that as your bio. But you might also want to have, like, a lot of what we do is we randomize everything and we create a whole lot of entropy. Because I noticed that if we just put everything into the system prompt, which is what a lot of agents do, it just doesn't have enough uniqueness. It ends up repeating itself a lot. And preventing the agent from repeating itself is like definitely one of our key things that we're trying to do, is to make it creative and interesting without forcing us to jack up the parameters on the model to keep it creative. Like we can have relatively low parameters on the model, like temperature, which is kind of like how quote unquote creative it can be. It's not actually not exactly what it is. It's more like of the random of the options available for the model to, give you a sentence, like what does it actually pick? And higher temperature increases some randomness in the system. So it can also then a lot of the hallucination that you see. So we try to get low hallucination by randomizing a lot of stuff, and then having a lower temperature. And you don't have to do this. Other agents do this differently. It's just the way that we've approached this. So I have this bio. I have all of these different bios. And what we do is for any time that the agent responds, we prepare this kind of like context, right? Like you could imagine here, I'll just like imagine I'm in ChatGPT and I'm like, okay, bio, right? And that's my bio. And every time I talk, I'm like, write a message like this person, right? That's cool. So what we do is we say, okay, well, we're actually going to grab 5 of these, just 5 of them, and we're going to randomize the order of them. And then we're going to put them together into a single bio. And it's always going to be different every single time that we do a ChatGPT call, right? We're not just going to do this. We're going to say, like, okay, I want that one. I want that one. I want that one. Those do 3, right? And that will say like, okay, do. That's like one sentence now, right? And so it's sort of like this is kind of what's happening in the back end. We do a lot more, but just imagine that we're like randomly composing this. Then like now write a message like this person, right? And hopefully it will be dramatically different because I've sort of given different pieces of the bio worded in a different way. And this creates a lot of entropy. Entropy is this idea of in information theory of like, well, how much randomness is, I mean, it's kind of a joke of like, entropy is itself not really like exactly easy for people to explain, especially me. But in the way that we talk about it, what we're talking about is like creating enough randomness in the system that it doesn't lock down into a single local minima and start just giving us the same answers in the same part of the model. We want it to pull things from different parts of the model and be more creative. And so we randomize the order of these things. And that kind of adds to that. So you could have one bio, but if you add a bunch of bios, it's going to be kind of playing into our strength of giving people a lot more creative agent. Now, it's the same thing with lore. Bio and lore kind of work the same way. In the way that this was created, and the way it will work in the future, is that it pulls the relevant lore. But right now, I think it just pulls some random lore to kind of give it some flavor, right? So, right now it's just pulling like 5 of these in, and you're like, hey, what are you doing? And she might be like, oh, I'm just like working on this project. I just encoded the entire works of Shakespeare into a single CSS file. But, now I'm trying to get it to host on an NFT. Okay, cool. And that's like, this is just like some stuff that's interesting about this character that they can reference. And we will make this a searchable thing so that you can search the lore, or it'll pull the relevant lore for whatever the current conversation is, but it's just not that set that way right now. However, we have another field, which we don't have any knowledge in here for right now for Eliza, but you can add, and knowledge is searchable. And this uses what's called RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation, which is a very fancy PhD term for we just go search stuff. And then we take the search stuff and we put it into the model before we run this. So imagine I like go to like news, right? And then I'm just like, I'll go grab the top 10 from Hacker News. I did the search and I'm like, okay, now write me a message that includes some info from this, right? That would be like retrieval. I just did it for you manually. Right? I got like I retrieved the top 10. Now, a more advanced version of retrieval would be like, okay, I'm actually gonna go here and then I'm gonna press the search. I'm gonna type in Eliza. And now I have these links, right? And now I've searched for Eliza. I'm only gonna pull the things that are Eliza. Yes. Cool. And then I'll put those and I'll be like, okay, now write the same, now write a message referencing this, right? And so that is RAG. You can do it with what's called vector embeddings, which we do. And that's a really nice way to search something without exact searching the keywords. But there's also like a lot of different ways to search, different algorithms. Some of them are much more efficient and cost less or require less compute. And all of those are valid, right? As retrieval from a database or from a data source. So knowledge, I'd say like, I don't know, let's say I've got like Mark Andreessen Substack, right? This would be a good example of knowledge. And the true version of Netscape. No. I don't want a video. I want a written piece. Yes. Why AI will save the world. Perfect. So I'm just going to take this like piece, and we have scripts to like hack up things and turn them into knowledge. But I'm just going to do this by hand, and I'll just create this like knowledge item, right? And all of this could be like one super long document, but it's fine for now. So that's like a knowledge item. And then I want another one. I want like on the Candlemaker's petition. No, that's cool, but it's not really interesting. I want for polarization. Okay, cool. So that's like okay, cool. We'll just grab that. And now I've got kind of two knowledge pieces. And we have some extraction tools so you can automatically make this. And I'll make those easier. It's called folder to knowledge. You just dump a bunch of PDFs and stuff and it will extract. So imagine that you like extracted a bunch of stuff and you created this array. I'll pull this up. It's fine. Character file. We really got to fix this stuff, but we do have some stuff here like tweets to character. You can download your Twitter archive and create a character file of yourself that's from your Twitter archive. We have folder to knowledge, and this will you just take a folder of PDFs and junk, and this will make a knowledge document that you can then paste into knowledge. And we're going to work on improving the RAG pipeline so that you could actually just have a folder of stuff in your agent folder, and it will automatically ingest. That's definitely coming. Because I think this is like one of the most powerful features. The other thing that we're working on is you'll be able to ingest knowledge directly from like Discord. And if I'm like, here's a PDF, can you please add this to your knowledge? And that should be something it can definitely do, right? Oh, cool. And then it hacks it all up, makes it all searchable, adds embeddings. And then every time you search from there on, it's like part of the memory store, right? So this is the stuff your agent knows and recalls by search. And it recalls the most relevant one. And this was recently fixed. So this is definitely got a pull main to get this. We also have message examples. And so we want to show what the actual language of our agent is. How do they speak? And so we can create these, we can use these user1 macro. And I think we can also replace this with agent name macro, like this. And these get replaced with users. So you can have user1, user2, user3, and you can have these like multi-agent, multi-turn conversations, and you see how would the agent respond in this conversation. You don't just have to have text. You can also associate an action, which might be like, I don't know, continue. In this case, it's not continue. It could just be none. I think that might be a very valid action. Ignore the it's just text. But generally, we have a content field which has text and maybe has an action or a target or some other things. So user1 conversation with, we'll just say Eliza in this case. User1 conversing with Eliza, and this will then get kind of compacted down into, and it'll randomly pull some of these examples, and it'll mix them in with the examples of action usage. So we have other, I'll get into this in a second. We have examples of actions being used. And we mix those in with like examples of the agent's conversation and basically say, this is how the agent speaks. You can see like in this case, user 1 continued and then spoke, and then Eliza responds and then continues and then speaks again. So the continue action is telling the agent, hey, follow up on your own message and send us another message. Don't worry about that. We'll get into that. But the point is that these are all examples of conversations. Some are short, some are long. And this just says like, how should the agent speak? And if you want it to be super witty and like kind of snarky, you would definitely want to reflect that in these conversations. If you want it to be soft and sweet, you might reflect that. You might reflect a little bit of each because you're randomly pulling these conversations all the time. And this is what it's using to say, this is how this agent speaks, right? Cool. So then these are messages and kind of examples of message conversation. We also have post examples. And these are a lot simpler because the post is pretty much just like, what does the agent generate? The message examples are used in interactions, chats, those kinds of contexts. The posts are used for like posting on Twitter. So, AI is cool, but it needs to meet a human need beyond shiny toy bullshit. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. And then the agent starts to like sort of adopt this style. And this is how we did, like our first version of Spartan was pretty much just we scraped all of his post examples and cleaned up like the links, and that was it. Like that was a lot of how we got there. And you can have thousands. You could have thousands of posts. You could literally have thousands. And so I want to show you something. We made a tool to make this easier on our repo. Actually, the creator of Beth AI, his name is Lucid, created this tool. Twitter scraper fine tune. We created it together. I think I created a little bit. He kind of created a little bit. But the idea is that this will actually run a scraper. You put your information in. You don't need an API. You just use your own, like use some username and password that maybe is your alt account or something. And you call the username that you want, like pmarka, and it will scrape all of the tweets, right? Or at least several thousand of them until you get rate limited. And this is what we used for getting the tweets. And I highly recommend you use this as well. Very, very useful. Cool. So this will scrape. You'll get all the tweets. You'll paste all of them into this post examples. And these post examples will be referenced every time it generates a new tweet. Okay. Then we have adjectives. And so these are used, we can use these when we want to in different post templates or different templates generally. If you're like, write a intelligent article about metaphysics. I don't know, this is kind of a character that's into that stuff, right? Or like write a schizo-autist article about Penrose orchestrated object reduction. um, and that's how it gets these like really, really like Mad Lib, if you want, for adding something about post generation that gets it out of the post examples sort of local minima. Is you can give it a bunch of examples, but then also give it different adjectives and topics to talk about, and it'll kind of cycle through those. And then if you have hundreds of those, you won't get a lot of repeats. So really think like you want a lot of adjectives, you want a lot of topics. Had people here, but we're not using this right now, so we'll probably get rid of that. It's just like a vestige. Now, here's another really important part is style. And the way that style works is that style is the last sort of part of your context. Like imagine I'm in ChatGPT, I'm here, and then I have all this like blah, blah, blah. I have this kind of boring shit here. Oh my God. Do. I got all this content. Okay, here is the current conversation, right? The current conversation comes in and it's like, Shaw, hey, what's up? Eliza. And then I'm chilling. Shaw, okay, cool. Eliza, ignore, right? I don't know, whatever. Something like that. I don't know. Well, usually what I will have is then I'll have some instructions like, respond as Eliza to the current conversation. I'll actually just get rid of the ignore. And the styles would then be like directions, right? And so we'd have here like style, like all styles. And then we'd have like, I don't know, we're chatting. So this would be like chat styles. And we'll put some random directions here for all styles and some for chat styles. If you have less than 10 directions, it will randomize the order of those directions. Again, this helps with entropy. If you have more than 10 directions, it will grab the top 10 from each of these fields and then randomize them. Or not top 10, but random 10, and then randomize the order. So if you want things to be very consistent, you should have 10 directions in each of these. If you want it to be more creative, you should have lots of directions. And then sometimes it'll go full, I don't know, like wall of text. And sometimes it'll be very short. And that'll be sort of dependent on the directions that are in there at the time, plus all the other context, plus the current conversation and example messages. All this stuff gets combined together dynamically, randomized, injected whenever it generates a new response. So what's important is all directions are always included. Chat directions are included in like the Discord and Telegram and Twitter interactions, but not the Twitter posts. And then posts are really for like any forum where it's just posting something out of nothing, right? So, act like a smart kid, but really edgy academic kid. Or it's just trying to be funny. I don't know, whatever you want. But I recommend that the style directions actually also be written in the voice of the character, because the model is not that smart. It's just kind of going to look over at the general thing. And if you have lots of walls of text, it's going to give you back lots of walls of text. I really recommend the AI agents tend to be way too wordy, and they say way too much. I would really recommend things like have very short responses, and then all of these be really short. Like we can just get rid of anything that's too long, and that's going to help a lot with shortening the responses as well, because it's kind of just looking at the context and saying, well, these people are wordy as hell, so I should also respond wordy as hell. And if everything is very short and sweet and to the point, and you're telling it to be short and sweet to the point, it will reflect that. So this is like the character template, right? I'd like to make, I don't know, I'd like to make a character real quick, right? So how would we make a character? Well, we will allow you in the future to, there's 3 ways to do this. You could clone this repo. You could go to packages, core, source, default character, and you could just edit this. In the early days, that's kind of what everyone was doing who didn't really feel comfortable with their other systems. But then it's kind of annoying because you want to like pull changes and you're having to like, it's erasing your main character, or you have to overwrite. It's not really fun. So we made another way, and also like, how do you run multiple characters at the same time? So we made another way to actually pass in characters. You can create a character in another format called JSON in a second, and then you can pass it in as the character file that you use, and it will override the default character. So let's do that. If I want to pass in a character, I type in PNPM run start space -- characters equals, and you can see I've got a Tate and a Trump in here. I'm not trying to get political or anything. I just think that they ended up there because they're both kind of funny. And you pass in the path to that, like tate.character.json, and hopefully it works. And it will tell you what character it loads. You can see no such file or directory. Eliza new agent characters. Yeah, well, that's because it needs to be. If you get that error, it's a path issue. Thought I fixed this, maybe not. But then let's add that, so it's like .. because you can see it's actually not. It's trying to open the agent thing, agent path. Whatever. It was yelling at us. So we pass in the character. Let me just go that again. We have a package called agent here, and it's actually running out of this agent package. So when I type in this characters, it's relative to the agent package. I fixed this before. I think I got regressed. But just in case, if you're like, I don't know why it's not working, like you saw me do before, I'm passing in a path relative to where we are, doing -- characters. It's cool, but it's going to error. And it's going to error right here because it says no such file open Eliza to new agent characters Tate. But actually, it's not an agent. It's next to agent, right? So I have to pass in this dot slash from relative to the agent folder characters Tate character. Cool. And that should run Tate. Okie doke, looking good. Now this all works. And now from here, I should be able to say, hey, what's up? But it's not going to work. Probably. Oh, yeah, actually it will. But it's going to take a while. So we have a lazy loading of local models. And so what it's doing is it's loading a embedding model. And what it's going to do with that embedding model is it's going to take whatever I said, hey, what's up? It's going to turn it into a vector, which is a series of numbers. It's going to return that vector, and then it can use that to search things like knowledge and stuff like that. So if you haven't downloaded this before, you have to download the embedding model. And you can see it's trying to use Claude, but I don't have a Claude API key here. I can go get one really easily, though. So and I probably will. If I go into the tate.character.json, you'll see it's just the exact same format as the other one. It just doesn't have it doesn't have anything in here. We actually don't even need this stuff. It could be an empty array. It's pretty dead, it's pretty empty. We just added some funny like examples of messages and lore. It's pretty bare bones. I could say OpenAI, I probably get the same problem. I could also say local llama local is llama underscore local. We should have that somewhere. So I can use local llama, and if I run this, I can actually download the local llama, and it should work. Somebody's asking PNPM saying one package is looking for funding. Why? Well, Jimmy, the NPM folks decided that since many developers don't get paid to build into this ecosystem, that if you added a funding.yaml, you could spam your users with it when they install. And you could please give me money. So yeah, that's just like all of this is free. It's a lot of it's donation run, and it's very thankless because it's so frictionless to install. You don't even realize you're installing people's stuff. Anyway, so I just said hello, what's up? It's now downloading the Florence model. I should probably make sure that it's not doing that unless it needs to until it's ready, but it is downloading Florence. Florence is a computer vision model that can also run locally. So I can run the entire Eliza stack locally as long as I have a GPU for it, right? The entire stack. But it's kind of annoying because it's a MacBook. It's just really slow. And I have to download all these models, including the vision model, the embedding model, the completion model. Ugh, what a pain in the ass. I just want it to work. I don't want to deal with this. I really don't. So I'm going to go back to Anthropic. And I'm just going to copy my environment variables, copy Eliza.env into this repo, just so that I have them here. Then I don't have to like go deal with them or anything. I'll just copy it over. And so I've copied my old .env to my new .env, which is here. And I can just see that I have a .env here now. And I'm pretty sure that already has some Claude stuff in it. And I'm pretty sure that since it has a Claude Anthropic key, I can just run this. Let's see what happens. It's still downloading the Florence model. I don't love that. And I know this is fixed on the new one, so I'm just going to check out origin main. But that's going to create another problem, which is that I'll probably have to clean. So I'm just going to do that. PNPM run clean. I just clean PNPM clean and PNPM I and PNPM build. Cool. While that's cooking, I just want to go like, what is an embedding? And a lot have some good examples. Like I think Cloudflare has some examples. Google has a lot of documentation. I think the Google for developers is a really, really good resource for AI. They have a whole crash course on all this stuff. And this will go into like how an embedding works, how word2vec works. Basically, every word can be converted into a vector. You can see like on a number line, like borscht, you can then say like certain things are closer to other things. Like a soup might be closer to a salad than a hamburger. But like, how do you really know? this is all done through, it's a whole other model that creates the embeddings. There's a lot of stuff here, like there's a tokenizer, there's all that stuff. If you want to learn about how this stuff works at a very deep level and how to program it, there's a guy named Karpathy, Andre Karpathy, and he worked at some companies for an OpenAI. It's not very well known. He's the CTO of both, I think, at some point. I'm kidding. He's obviously really freaking legendary machine learning developer. And he created this really beautiful playlist called Neural Network Zero to Hero, where he literally takes you through, it's very complicated, but he takes you through everything you would want to know about embeddings, tokenizers, all that stuff. This is like really the best, this is the best YouTube series that's ever come out from anyone. And it literally starts at the beginning and goes all the way through all the stuff. You literally build GPT-1 by the end. And very, very much recommend it. This is like the advanced version. If you just want to kind of know what embeddings are, I would go check out like this Google machine learning class, and it'll show you like how this stuff works, how embeddings work, all this stuff. This is very, very useful. And basically what we do is we take these complex sentences and we put them into this like low dimensional space, and we can do this vector search by comparing them. Example, like pizza and hot dog are pretty close on dessertness, which could be like one value. And then, like sandwichness is another value. And so we have these like complex arrays that cover the femaleness or maleness or authorityness, like a king versus a queen, or have like what's the difference between a king and a queen is like, well, there's just like, it's like moving along the male. Anyway, there's a lot here. They do a really good job of visually explaining this in kind of a simple way. I think this is a really good example of like, I actually have that. You can see like the difference between king and queen is that there's like some vector that gets you from here to there. And that direction of that vector is the same as from man to woman. So there's something in the model in the dimension space just records the value of like male femaleness or of walking to walked or swimming to swam, right? There's some like the tense of the verbness. And these are represented in these complex embeddings. We can then use them to, they have a really cool tool here. You can use them to sort of visualize where things are in space and then how close they are together, right? So I will post this, projector.tensorflow.org. This is a really cool tool. Good deal. And you can see that all of the words in the world have this embedding. And you can see is close to Nobel on certain angles. If I like kind of put it like that, it's like, wow, they're like really similar from this angle. But then like from other angles might be very far. Or like, this word referendum is very far from chemists in space. Now, the way that we've gotten this three-dimensional view out of a 168 dimension is that we've used this is called principal component analysis. And this is basically projecting all those vectors down into what the most relevant ones are. And I highly recommend you play with this and understand all this stuff. It's super interesting. I guess this is a lot of fun. And we use this for search all through our system. And generally, like this is very implicit to RAG. So I just wanted you to kind of get an idea of that, understand what's happening with embeddings. This is a language model thing as well. It's not the same as like the completions that we're used to, but it's definitely an important part of the language model. Yeah, cool. Embeddings. And in the meantime, we've installed, right? Now I can go, okay, cool, got everything going, PNPM run dev. Oops. Actually, I want to run my character thing that I was doing. Characters, do. And I pasted that embedding projector into the chat on Discord. Okay, cool. What's up? Hopefully it works. Appears to be generating text. It's the Claude Haiku model. Seems to be stuck in kind of some crazy loop. Generating message response. I love that. I also don't know why it's handling haiku. Well, let's try OpenAI. I'll have to go back and fix that. Ooh. Let me see. Should work. Funny if it didn't though. Hey, what's up? Yeah, why is it initializing the llama service? Weird. Certainly shouldn't. Oh, it does initialize the service, just doesn't load them all yet. Okay, cool. So this is a little bit messy, but I'm like, how are you doing? And you can see I sent that off, it does a bunch of junk, creates a memory. Goes, agent, I'm doing well, just focusing on my goals. You know how it is. Men need to stay strong and driven. What about you? Are you making any moves in your life? It's very Andrew Tate. I think you'd say some shit like that. And you can see there's not really a lot here, really. There could be a lot more. But functionally, we've kind of like, it works. Gotten through it, it works. And yeah, we could create a new character, right? If we wanted to. Okay, well, let's not do Tate. Let's do like who's funny. I don't know. I don't know. Someone give me a good idea for a character. I just need somebody. Throw it in the chat. Oh, we gotta do something fun. Kevin Hart. Oh, that's pretty good. I like Snoop Dogg. That was a good one. I think that's pretty funny. Snoop Dogg. And we'll say a rapper and actor. He's a very successful and famous person. You can say he's very cool and chill. He is very funny. We could say like Snoop is very good at Price is Right. Right? That's a true thing. He's very good at making music. Snoop invests in lots of interesting Web3 projects like Sandbox. Right? I don't know, whatever. Just some stuff. Oh, did my stream die? I hope it didn't die. It seems to be running. I'm just kidding. Okay, cool. Good deal. Whatever. Just some lore bio. I'm not gonna try too hard to get the idea. And then I'd be like, yo, man, you want to smoke a blunt? You want to smoke a blunt? I think that's like a thing he does a lot of. Hell yeah, man. That's what he'd say. Be like, hell yeah, man. Let's do it. What's up? Not much, just chilling. Right? Got some examples, whatever. And obviously, I spent a lot of time doing this. And the more time you spend, the better this gets. Somebody asked you, these bio and lore need full sentences? No, absolutely not. They're kind of getting listed as like lore about Snoop Dogg or like Snoop Dogg's bio. And so then you could just be like, I don't know, a rapper and actor, very sub person. You could have dashes or like he is. I don't really know what's the best. There's a lot of room for prompt engineering, and this will actually have quite an effect on prompt engineering. So if you want to like write a paper on like what the best way to inject bio is into a thing, I'm sure you could do that. You could also say like very good at making music, or like makes lots of good music to smoke blunts to, whatever, right? Cool. And then we're like, all right, let's go. Oh, no. Not Tate. And now we've got this JSON and we're like, okay, cool. All right, let it start up. Someone's saying, yeah, he has a personal employee who is a blunt roller. Imagine your job is to roll blunts for Snoop Dogg. That would be really interesting. Or not very interesting, I don't know. I'd rather be doing this, honestly. But 70K a year is like, I'd rather be doing that than insurance, I'll tell you that. Okay. Hey, what's up? Now, hey, yo, what's good? Just chilling like a villain. You know how it is. What you up to? Damn, nice. Dude, just really need to smoke a blunt right now. I don't know, man. Need to smoke a blunt. Cool. I got you, my friend. Just let me know what you need and we get this vibe going. You ready to elevate? For some reason you responded twice. There's some little buggy thing, whatever. I feel you on that. Nothing like a good blunt to chill out. You got the goods, you need me to roll one up for you. Please roll one up for me, man. All right, you get the idea. So that's kind of how you make a character. You can mess with them here in the console. Now we want to like bring Snoop to Discord. This is the other big thing that people are going to ask. How do you bring him to Discord? All right, we can do that. So we need to enable a client for him. By default, he has no clients. So we can just touch him, talk to him in the term class. You can see a lot of debug shit. It's not great. We want to talk to him in Discord. We just add Discord as a client. Now we have a list of clients, and I think Discord. Come on, I know. I guess not. I thought. Clients. I know there's a client enumerated type, but it is not telling me what it is. Clients.discord. I swear to God, it's clients.discord. Bullshit. Okay, well, whatever. Yeah, where are you? Here's the type. No? Okay, whatever. Oh, there it is. I just saw it. I think this is a little important. We'll just list what the clients are. So we have Discord, Direct, Twitter, and Telegram. We also have Farcaster, which just needs to be imported. It should be client.discord. I'm surprised we're not using that anywhere, but that would be what it is. Or the JSON version is this value. So it's a Discord. I'm gonna add Discord. We can also add Direct, which would be like, hey, I want to add this. I want to be able to call this from outside. I could actually like call this as an express, like a server, and you can have your own app in the front end that calls this from your front end. That'd be like the direct client, like a REST API. And then you also have Twitter and Telegram and all that. You can say, like, okay, well, I want Twitter, but I don't want Twitter right now. It's like a pain in the ass. So we're just going to do Discord. Cool. Now, if I do this, it's probably going to yell at me, or even worse, it's going to try to log in with the other character that I have in my environment file. But I can see that there is no Discord configuration and it's throwing an error, right? Can't start this. So I got to go get an application ID and a secret, and let's go to Discord developers, and we'll just create an application. We'll do this from scratch. Okie doke. Got a bunch of apps. Probably some alpha in here. And we're going to create Snoop Dogg. Let's call him Snoop. Be easier. And we have this application ID, and I need to put that here. And I say Discord application ID is the secret. Now the other one, well, I will go get it. I'm gonna have to reset this anyway, so whatever. I'll stream it just for an example, but I'm sure people will try to abuse this. It doesn't really matter though. What is it? It's the bot token. So we want to reset the token. Yes, reset the token. Oh, I have to go do this with MFA. All right, so I'm going to pull this off and I'm going to go get the bot token. Because I have to, everything I have is multi-factored now. Come on, passkey sign in. Okie doke. I have copied the token. And now we have to put the token in here in a way that will not get me in trouble. So I'm just going to pull this off to the side for a second. Put it in my .m. I'll show you what I did in a second. Token Discord API token. Okay, sorry, I can't see these guys. Doesn't really matter, but okay, so now we're back here. The Discord token will be some blah 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 like that, but I actually put it in my .m, so you can't see it. So don't worry about that. Good deal. it's already in the secrets. So I have an equivalent Discord API token value in my environment variable. You would put your bot token here. You're going to get your bot token from that Discord developer page that I was at. Next, you're going to invite your bot to your server. And the way that you do that is you get this, discord.js is what we use. And they have a guide, and they have this kind of default bot invite link. And this is plenty sufficient, but you have to put your client ID in here to make this work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Discord application ID, I'm going to paste it in, and then I have this here, and I can run it. That is going to launch a Discord thing here, blah, blah. You can see, like, I have this thing. I have my Discord space on the other side. And I'm actually probably gonna have to bring Discord over here to be able to talk to the spot, right? I have so many servers. I guess we'll invite to ai16z, like, why not? That's where we're at. Okie doke. And I've invited the bot to this server. It's not running, so it's fine. You can see, do some weird stuff here. If I go to the welcome, probably not even welcome. Nope. He's not online yet. He should be. Let me go into the discussion at Snoop. Yep. Yo. I'm just tagging him. And then I can tag him. I can see that he doesn't have any roles. So I'll just give him a role of agent. And I'll give him another role of verified. He's verified. Okay. Now he's not running, so he's not going to do anything here. But I am going to invite him into the arena. See, there's a lot of bots here. I can be like, hey, Snoop. Right. Okie doke. So let me go run him so that he is here. PNPM and start Snoop Dogg. I hate this food so bad. I'll be my treat for finishing this up. Okay, got some issues. Use disallowed intents. You might run into this problem a lot. Very annoying, right? Okay, well, disallowed intents. What does that mean? Well, we didn't give him all of the intents that we need. And so we will go to, where's our homie? Nope. Go down to bot, and you can see that we have these privileged gateway intents. We do not need this requires OAuth 2 grant. Leave that disabled unless you're doing something with it. We do need these three. We need to know server members, message content, and presence. We at least need to know these two for sure. And then we can save it. So we have the intent saved. Now let's try that again. Successfully. Let's go to Discord. Hey, yo, give him a second to respond. He's crunching on some stuff. Hey, what's good, my dude? Just chilling, vibing. You feel me? Hey, it's pretty good, right? He's got a vibe. Some things he's annoying, like he seems to be responding twice. I gotta fix that. But yeah, he's firing, right? Okay, cool. So people are already playing with him. What's good with you, Golden Plunger? Jesus Christ, people. Okay, cool. I'm gonna shut him down. You kind of get the vibe, right? Like that's it. We from scratch, we cloned the repo, we installed everything we needed, we got a basic character going, we started our own character file, we launched it from the command line, we got him into Discord, now he's talking. If you want to add Twitter, you just go here, you add Twitter, you add the credentials, do that. That simple, right? Okay, now we've done it. I'll leave him chilling for a second. You guys can talk to him. I'm gonna go back to the stage. Does anyone have any questions? Does anybody from here? Like, I'm gonna go transition, and we're gonna spend the next 45 minutes on the advanced stuff. And I'm not gonna live that. I wanted to create examples, but I don't think I'm gonna have time. So I'm just gonna go into what the actual abstractions are, and then for the next AI Agent Dev School, we will actually go and build a bot that does something cool. And what I want to build is I want to build a bot that evaluates if it likes you and changes how it responds to you if it likes you or not. Somebody's asking, what is CodeJourney? Well, CodeJourney is a startup that I almost started with the goal of using the Eliza tech to introduce people to other people by getting to know them first. So you can imagine like, oh, you're like a software engineer in San Francisco, like super cool. Like I've got this friend in Milwaukee, like he's actually looking for a collaboration and he's also a vibe. So yeah, it's a startup I didn't start, but it really helped me to shape some of the complex stuff I want to do here. Like how do I build relationships with people? How do I model and remember like a bunch of stuff about somebody? I didn't proceed because I realized that um, uh, agents come to you and that it wasn't that good by making people come to an app if I could just do this all on Discord. And so we're actually going to work our way back around to enabling all that features and agents so the agents can introduce you to other people it thinks you would like. But I think that's like that's just something that like that's not our current priority. Um, it looks like client's Discord works in a character JSON file, but when using character.ts, it has an issue. Yes. So when you use TypeScript, you have to use the typed version. And so if you go into source default character and you go clients, you're going to type in clients dot capital Discord. And this is an enumeration. What this actually is putting in there is just this text, but it's in a typed way that prevents you from making a mistake. And that is why that's there. So then make sure that it's typed to be the exact thing you want. And that's the equivalent of this. Now, long term, we're probably going to get rid of this JSON and just have TypeScript. But just so you know, that's kind of the thing. People are asking, is this the official Eliza coin? This has nothing to do with the coin. This is not a coin thing. This is actually just the confusion of Eliza is a GitHub repo. Eliza is a framework. It is a character. It's character I've never line actually comes, if you guys want to know, this is good lore from this wiki from Eliza. Eliza is a program from 1966 created by Joseph Weizenbaum. I'd say it was just developed from 64 67, but I'm pretty sure released in 66. MIT and first thing, and it would come back with something that was like interesting and human. Like, is something troubling you? Men are all like, what is the connection, do you suppose? It's just asking you these kind of like very broad questions that keep you engaged through like what we call the Eliza effect. And the reason we call these Elizas is because people tend to make them more into this like projecting humanity onto them. This is a very interesting Wikipedia article. I really recommend checking it out if you haven't. The Eliza effect is what every one of us is falling for, which is that we are talking about not very smart language models, but I mean smart enough to do a lot of crazy stuff, but they are in many people think that they're human or assume that they are, right? Because that's how we model other people's intelligence and stuff. So yeah, the Eliza effect, Eliza, that's where this all comes from. That's why it's important to me. Cool. Is there a way to keep the agent updated with the latest news? Yes, actually, that's what I was going to do a demo of. We could do the news API and we could go to the news API and we could add this as a provider. So I will get into this next. If there's any other talk, yeah, I love Boyle Oxford's like coin talk is for trenches only. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to get into the more advanced stuff and we're just going to try and get over this in like 45 minutes. And then for the next AI agent dev school, we're going to do things like add a news for news related to whatever is being talked about. And we will form views on people, like we will start to hate or like people in the agent based on how they talk to us. I think those will be like the kinds of things that we'll do next. What OAuth 2 permissions are needed for the Discord bot? This is a question. You do not need any OAuth 2 permissions. You need the 3 intents that are there, the privileged intents. So in that page, just skip the OAuth thing, look at the bot page, click on the intents. Can you please elaborate on how we can add knowledge to the agent like books bio? Yeah, well, you can extract that into an array of text, which we made a thing. It's not particularly clean. You can write, we have this character file repo. If anybody wants to work on this, oh, there's some pull requests. Maybe people already did. Nice. Wow, I have to merge these in. You can be an example character file and some basic examples of working with it, importing it into Python as well as JavaScript. So the character file is separate from everything. You use it in, and then we have some scripts, like you can extract your tweets into a character, or you can extract a folder into a knowledge file. And so if you're just trying to do RAG, you could run, and we made this as like a thing. It's npx is a run npm packages or the binaries in those packages from the command line. You can do npx folder knowledge, any folder you want, and it will extract all of the PDFs and READMEs and text files and stuff into something you can paste into your character folder, right? That's, I mean, character file. And so otherwise, you could just be like, this is a really long document that just happens to be shoved into this, character file. It can be retrieved when the user asks for something relevant to it. And if you have a small amount of search files, it's very, very, very fast. So how do I add a bot to my own Discord server? I just covered that. There is a adding your bot to your own servers. I'd say just like search for this, adding your bot to your servers, discord.js, and it will give you the whole thing. Cool. Any other questions? Yeah, you can also, is Truth Terminal Eliza? No, they are different frameworks. Truth Terminal is not an open source framework. It's based on this thing called the infinite backrooms. And Truth Terminal is a character who you talk to and they loop back and forth. And then Andy was taking the funny things that Truth Terminal would say and pasting them into the Twitter. Later, as they got more money and hype and a lot of pressure to be fully automated started, they started to fully automate the account, and now it generates tweets and posts them, I believe. I think there's a review queue, so they don't allow it to post everything. They like review and approve everything it posts. Our thing just YOLOs. It just posts. It's never, ever been human anything. No human copy paste, no human review queue. It just goes, for better or worse. How do you add knowledge in the TypeScript file? That's a good question. Go to here, add a new knowledge field, make it an array. This is some knowledge. You now have knowledge here in the TypeScript file. So knowledge is a field in character, but it's optional. And that means that you don't have to provide it. If it's not provided, it'll still be okay. For adding Twitter API, etc. secrets, they go into the .env or the character.json. This is up to you. You can do either. My recommendation for security is to put them in your .env, unless you were like managing 10 character files. Then you might want to put them in your character file because each one has a different Twitter account, all that stuff, right? Makes sense? Okay. But .env is usually better and more secure, and like I might accidentally click on my character file and leak all my environment stuff. I probably won't do that with my .env. Now I'm going to get into some of the concepts that are really important here. Have a suggestion and limit of knowledge to not hallucinate. I mean, that you could make a system directive, which is like, if you don't know something, just say that and don't hallucinate, right? If you don't know something, don't make up an answer. Just say you don't know, right? And this is actually like surprisingly effective for a lot of situations. Although sometimes it does know something and it still says it doesn't know because it's like hallucinating the fact that it doesn't know the thing, which is kind of annoying. The system directive does not weight that heavy. Actually weights the least heavy. The heaviest weighted thing is the style directions, and then the message examples. The style directions, one thing to know, it's a weird property of LLMs. Some GoonScript 5s unleashed. Hilarious. Whatever comes toward the bottom affects the next tokens more than whatever comes to the top. This has become less true with better rotary position embeddings and things, but it is still true that the things that are at the bottom of your context are going to be considered and weighted more than the things at the top. And so the order of things in your context, whether you're using just handwriting stuff in ChatGPT or anywhere else, you should know that like whatever comes at the bottom is definitely going to be weighted more. It's just the nature of relationships of words and stuff together. And it kind of makes sense. Like, if you're reading a long document, which covering different sections, you probably want to weight the section you're in more. It's not something that has to be that way either. It just happens to be that the property of current language models. Can you comment on target accounts that meet criteria, like live in a certain area or the keywords? No, we cannot do that, but you certainly could add that. Like that would be a really easy feature to add. What I would probably do is modify like the Twitter client, and I'd go into client Twitter package, and I'd go modify the like the interactions. Right? That's like, oh, I want to go. Actually, look at the search. We don't use search because we found it was too annoying. So like the problem is if we're just searching for people or like interests or topics, then we might start engaging and picking on people who don't love AI and don't love agents. We kind of want this to be like an opt-in thing. So be very careful about like reply guying certain people. I won't name names, but there were certain bots that were extremely annoying to me because every time I posted, they would like have something to say, and like half of my comments are then just like I didn't tag them. I'm not engaging them. They're just following me because they want my attention. And I think that's what's going to get us banned. So we disabled search. You can enable this, and this will let you target like people and interests and stuff. Take a look at this. It might need a little bit of work because we kind of disabled it or just commented it out. It's not running, but you might find it very interesting. Would I be able to go over the Twitter bot integration? Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Let's just get into it. Let me get into all the stuff. I'll get into the concepts. I don't have a lot of time, so we're gonna have to whirlwind this in like 40 minutes. And then we'll just get into it. Okay, so the first thing is like you should know that we have documentation on all of this, and you should please just read it. Jen spent a lot of time on this. Docs are hard. Every time you read a documentation, that was not automatic. That was many, many, many painstaking hours of getting it to be like anything that's not terrible. And usually after you spend a lot of time writing a code, you just like have no motivation to write docs. So it's really, really nice when people come in and appreciate the docs. Yeah, so chat says Jen is doing the lore around here. Definitely agree. So we're going to start with like, kind of we have our packages, and it's got like a sort of package architecture. You can see that the core package, it's actually not right. All of the agent package actually is depending on literally everything else. Everything goes into core. We have database adapters, clients, plugins, and then the agent package imports everything. So just a note, Jen, we'll probably have to fix this graph. It's a little off. The core package can be imported into the browser, can be imported into an embedded runtime. It can be imported anywhere that TypeScript can be imported into. It doesn't have a lot of dependence. And this is used in, like we have a game called Small World, and we can like pull in the core and run the agent there, but then call services external to the core, to like OpenAI or Completion or anything like that. And that way we could have an agent running in the browser, but still contacting services that are elsewhere. Or you just install this into your agent thing and go, right? When we say adapters, what we're talking about are database adapters, right? We have different sources of truth that we want to connect. By default, it works with SQLite, which is it's a file-based adapter that just runs locally. You have like a .SQLite file that runs that is created. And if you're getting something like you're like, I changed my bot's personality, he still keeps talking the same. It's really annoying. Well, there's probably and we should find out where this is. Probably in core. There is a SQLite DB. God, we should really find that. Which is getting created, which is that is the adapter. I wonder where that is. Does anyone know where that goes now? Not in client. It's not an agent. Source? Core source? Are you kidding me? Or an agent source? That'd be ridiculous. No, I don't know where it is, but there should be a db.sqlite around here somewhere. That's really funny. Everyone's telling me source. SRC, where, like, am I dumb? Yeah, I guess we could just be like db.sqlite. I don't know what's going on. That's weird. Refresh. So funny. Yeah, it's not there. It's not an agent package. Okay, well, oh, they're saying core source. Packages, core source. No, I mean, it definitely shouldn't be here, right? It should be definitely not here. Are you kidding me? Source is there, core source. I don't see where db.SQLite is. Maybe I'm blind. Point is that like it puts the database somewhere. Oh, you know, maybe it hides it. Whatever. Apparently the Snoop coin was created, then rugged, and is now looking for a CTO. Oh, Jin's got like some leet find code here. That's really funny. I don't know where it went. Maybe we put it in like a hidden place. Oh, it's in the data folder. Okay, that's actually reasonable. Okay, so if you delete this db.SQLite in the agent folder, now let's move there. It's actually a good spot for it. This is like, this will erase all of your memories for all your agents. So only do that if you want to do that, right? Agent data db.SQLite, just so you know. That's like the actual default database storage place. You can also use Postgres, right? You use Postgres, you can use Supabase. And if you really want to, you can use SQL.js and run this in the browser. And it's basically a version of SQLite that fully runs in the browser. Cool, good deal. We also, another abstraction, we have database adapters. We also have clients. And so the idea of a client is that it's a thing that your agent uses to connect to a external source, right? Or a social media network or something. So we have a direct client, which gives you a REST API, and then you can like make your apps talk to your agent through a REST API. We have a Discord client, obviously, which does voice and messages. We have a Telegram client, which lets you like run commands and deal with the bot stuff, deal with images, all that. We have the Twitter client, which you've all seen, it does posts, it does interactions, which are like responding to people. And we have the auto client. And the auto client is like our autonomous loop. It just runs. It just runs in a loop. You set the tick, and then it can do analysis, can do auto trading, all that, like whatever you want. And we're just kind of fleshing that client out now. So I want to connect Eliza to a front end repo. And we actually have a great one I recommend called Live Video Chat. I have a screenshot of, kind of made this for Ruby. This is just a modification of another open source project that uses the Simly client. And if you put an image in, and then you can talk into it. And so this, so I forked this from there's a company called Simly, it's simly.com, and we're using Simly. You make an account, you get an API key, and then you can actually like talk to, you know, Bad Luck Brian. Okay, maybe it'll work. Maybe. You know, I'll just show you guys an example.
Hey there.
Hey, what's up? What's going on?
Hey, not much. Just, you know, trying to avoid any more embarrassing moments.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Braces stuck in a sandwich at lunch. Everyone laughed, and I just sat there red-faced. Classic Bad Luck Brian, right? So, what's up with you?
Man, it's way too chatty though. But you can see what this is. So this is basically a version of that. This connects to Eliza using Simly. Go get a Simly account. Super fun. Really, really fun. And I'm surprised no one's doing this because I'm sure this would definitely help some market caps to release some crazy shit like that. That would be a great meme maker. But yeah, what this does is it connects to the direct client. So as long as you go into your agent character and you like add direct, it'll actually add your agent as a to the REST API, and then you can call it from a front end like that. So we thought about that a lot and definitely give that a spin. So there's Michael saying, Mikhail, can we get a fix for word limit issue on Twitter? Verified profile can't post more than 280 words. Kind of. If you need that, then we have to update the agent Twitter client, which is the Twitter client that we're using, which we also made. And the main issue here is that it's a different API to call the like long form post versus the 280 or less post. So we can do that. Do we have a pull request for it? No, but this is sick. Okay, so Butoshi's shipped a new thing. upload media. So this will do media uploads and some stuff, but I still don't do long form posts. But that's definitely a good thing that you could do a PR of. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna get into just a few more of these abstractions. I probably won't be able to get into like building anything like examples. I think we only have about 30 minutes left. But I'll get into the abstractions and then we'll save that. We'll do the news API import. We'll do like a character, deciding if they like you or hate you, and then injecting that back into a provider. I think that'd be really fun. And that would be a usage of a provider, an evaluator, and an action. So I could be like, hey, get me the latest news on so-and-so, and it can return that. I'll do all that stuff in the next one. I think that's good usage. So let's go over some of the core concepts. So we have character files. We covered this, and you can see all of this is here. It basically just a repeat of everything I told you guys. We have agents. This is kind of, this talks about the agent runtime. So each agent has its own runtime. That runtime holds like all the current states, the name of the agent, everything about their character, their what model provider they use. Literally everything for that agent is stored in its runtime object. And what you do is you say like const runtime. This is define a new constant called runtime, and we'll create a new agent runtime. And you can pass in all of this stuff. Now, really, we've set this up for you. If you go into the agent package, you'll see that this agent package will let you load multiple agent runtimes simultaneously. You can parse out the list of characters, either a character or many characters, and then you can use that to load like 10 agents, create one runtime for each of them, and then have that run. So if I go in here and I'm say like, okay, agent runtime, you can see that this is where we create the new, we have a create agent function, and we create the agent with the agent runtime here. And for this one, we're doing a lot of tests. We're saying, well, if you have a wallet public key, load the Solana plugin. If you have a, we should probably make that Solana wallet public key, but you get the idea. If we have a Conflux Core private key, load the Conflux plugin. And we can do this with basically all of the, this is how we're setting up our agent and passing in plugins to that agent. You can see we pick a model provider, we pass that in from the model provider, and that will say like, okay, well now let me go get the, you know, OpenAI information and stuff based on this. Use OpenAI as our model provider. We can also pass in individual providers, actions, services, managers. I'm going to show you what these are in a second. And obviously, though, each of these things can actually be inside of a plugin. So a plugin is kind of a wrapper for all of our other primitives, but then you can just pass in individual primitives without having to have a plugin. If you wanted to add an action, you could just be like, I just want mint with pump fun, right? And that would just be like, okay, I have an action. And I could import mint with pump fun from Solana or something. You have the pump fun action, right? So you could like customize pass an action. So we're going to talk about actions, providers, and evaluators. These three. These are kind of the three main abstractions that we use to extend the functionality of the agent. Obviously, clients are important. You need like, oh, we're adding Farcaster. We have a PR for that. We'll merge that in. But generally, once you have the clients, like it's more about what can the agent do on those clients. And that should be pretty abstract. I mean, not abstract, but it should be pretty generic. Like, I should be able to summarize a document on any client. It shouldn't really have anything to do with the client. Maybe I'll have a custom summarize per client to like make sure it's formatted nicely for Discord versus like posting a link on Twitter that links to like a HackMD or like a, you know, like a page on like Get Pages or something like that. I can imagine a world like that. But mostly when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make this bot that like imports the news and decides how it likes you or not. Those things are going to be through these three abstractions: providers, actions, and evaluators. So a provider provides obviously information into the context. The context is kind of like if you're in OpenAI land, and you're chatting, like this is the context. All of this whole conversation is the context, right? And so imagine we're like stacking all this up, but we also want like, okay, well now we want to go get the news, right? So I was like Google News. I think I blocked Google News because I don't like it. Let's go to news. And we're just like, let's just say we grab some news, right? I'm like, okay, cool. So like, imagine that I have a news provider and it literally just went and got that stuff, like formatted it like this, and then it shoves it into here as the context, right? So a provider is anything that an agent can see, hear, touch, smell, get information from. It's an input. It is the thing that goes into the agent. And we don't have full support for this yet, but soon we'll have support for like streaming audio and images and all that stuff going into the provider as context, which actually affects the way that the model then returns a response, right? You could imagine it has some news and it has a couple images and it has, or descriptions of the images and it has all of this stuff. Then it can be like, oh, cool. Well, like, yeah, let me tell you the latest information about tape, for example, if that's what you're interested in. So providers, information coming in to our context. We dynamically assemble our context, not like this where we write it by hand, but dynamically arrange all of it. And whatever providers are relevant in that current situation, add data. So you might have like a game and you might have a computer terminal provider. And every time you walk up to a computer terminal, that computer terminal provider becomes enabled and relevant. And now it starts like feeding you computer terminal information in which your agent can use. That'd be like an example, right? So providers are very essential for that. Peter froze. Okay, I'm gonna kill Snoop Dogg. We're just gonna kill him for a second. Okay, so the next thing we have after providers are actions. Providers are things that the agent sees, hears, reads, gets in. Actions are things the agent can do, like order a pizza or mint a coin on Pump Fund. We actually have that. You could actually do that. We do not have ordering a pizza, but you definitely could add ordering a pizza as an action. Or tell me the latest news on X, on XYZ person, or on thing. That would be an action. It would go call an API, get that stuff, bring it back to you, and put it in. So you can tell the agent, hey, do this thing, and it will respond. Another good action is like ignore. So the agent chooses to ignore you because it thinks you're annoying. That's an action. None is an action. Just do no action. Continue. Hey, keep going. Say another line after whatever you said. So it's like, you're like, hey, can you write me a story? It might like write the first part and then continue to write the second part. Actions are what an agent does, right? And maybe we'll get into these if we have some time. But then we'll go to evaluators. So evaluators are the agent reflecting on the current scenario and extracting information from that. So a good example would be the trust score database that we're working on for the marketplace of trust. And, we have this alpha chat, and we're all chilling contract addresses, buy, sell, it's garbage, you should buy this, don't buy this. And it's actually extracting buys and basically bids in a virtual marketplace from that by looking at the chat saying, okay, well, this person posted the contract address and they're saying, I'm buying a bunch of this. That's like a high conviction bet. I'm going to go place a bet in a virtual marketplace of trust. That happens at the evaluator level. It always the agent doesn't have to do anything or respond or act. It just, if it's getting information in the end, right? So you're saying build a perplexity plugin. Should that actually be a provider? Well, what I would do is I would make it a plugin and then I would add a provider into the plugin that is that perplexity provider. And then you could just register the plugin and then you don't have to worry about registering the the individual providers, actions, and evaluators. These three can actually be registered inside of a plugin. So let's go look in the code, right? I think the Solana plugin is a kind of good one. Somebody asked if I could go kind of look through the wallet code a little bit and explain that. And I think the Solana place is a really good place to start. So we have actions, evaluators, and providers. In providers, the one you're all going to want to see is the wallet, right? Obviously. And so the provider provides the current assets in the wallet. You definitely need to have a Bird Eye account. I think you have to have an API for this so that it can see it. But you can see it will, there's a lot of code in here. A lot of like retry handling and caching and stuff. But you can see it's like the format portfolio, right? It gets the total USD, the total SOL, it gets the token balances, it finds all items that have a non-zero balance, it figures out the value of those, converts that value to SOL, lists them, adds the the market prices of SOL, BTC, and ETH. And so you get like the prices of your entire portfolio plus the like major ones, right? Okay, what's the price of BTC right now? Cool, kind of makes sense. And then we can format the portfolio into a string and inject it into the provider. So the provider is a standard abstraction in our thing, right? I said that providers bring information in. You have to provide a runtime through this provider function. Your runtime is like, which agent am I calling the provider on? We have to pass in the last message that we received, if there is one, or we create one for the agent, kind of just a null message. And we can pass in the current state, like, get me all the messages, of the recent messages, all the recent facts, all that stuff. We don't have to pass in current state. This is optional. And we'll say, okay, well, capital key for our wallet. Then go try to create a connection to our PC host, set up the wallet provider, which is a separate kind of provider. That's just like the wallet manager class. And then let's go get the portfolio from this formatted portfolio, which turns our portfolio into a string, and then just return it. And it returns whatever this is, like a string of information that then gets injected into the context. So we have like a trust score provider, same thing. We go down here, it does a bunch of stuff, it calculates the trust score, but ultimately it's going to return a result. Just returns a string, right? And that string gets injected. Actually, that's probably not the right return. It's one returns. Here it's like return trust score string. So it says username trust score is this. And it just puts that into the context. So whenever you're talking to them, it's like, I don't know, I don't really trust you. Your trust score is 40. Like, that's kind of how that works. So that's how the providers work. They provide information in, and they just have one function, which is called get. Then we have some evaluators. So this is the trust evaluator. This extracts the virtual orders from the conversation and makes virtual buys with them, which it then uses for the trust marketplace. It basically creates your trust score based on these virtual buys, right? Just to jump in, people are asking some questions. I run this on my Mac. I run a MacBook M1. I just got an M4. It's in the mail. And that'll let me run like Llama 7DB. I really like Macs because they have a unified memory architecture. So you can have a lot of memory and run a large model. But man, the NVIDIA models are it's just, those graphics cards are way faster. So if you're interested in like speed, you want a really fast conversational agent, you might want to look at like an NVIDIA GPU, like a 3090, 4090. And that'll run the smaller models pretty well. If you're interested in, hey, this will run on my MacBook, just get like 64 gigs of RAM and you can run anything pretty much. Cool. Let's see. Might be some bugs. Somebody saying it repeats my words if I say anything. I'm not sure. It might be a bug. We'll figure that out. Okie doke. I think, yeah, sorry. Jumping back to the chat, answering some questions. A little ADD. Back to here. I also want to show you some templates. So you can see that this is like the recommendation template. And we do these like, we have these macros for like, how do we get the context into a template? Well, we use like recent messages or recent recommendations. And some of these templates like client Discord messages, you can actually see that there's a whole message response handler template. And then there's this Discord message handler template. And this is actually like, we have examples of actions. This is where all of our knowledge gets injected. This is the RAG. This is like about the character. And then this puts in the bio and the lore. And all of this stuff is composed in the runtime. But this is like what a template actually looks like, right? And all of these providers, these are where the providers get injected. These are the attachments that are like currently available from the conversation. If you like upload a PDF, it'll have the summary and the attachment name. And then the actions. And these are the available actions that at any given moment the agent can call, right? So this is the template. And this all gets composed with the recent messages and the message directions, which are like the style stuff, into what goes into the model, right? And all of these get filled out and injected with lots and lots of information. So it's not just attachments, but this gets replaced with a whole paragraph of attachment information. This gets replaced with a list of actions. And eventually the completion happens, right? So we're running out of time. So I want to go kind of quick. So the evaluators run at the end. They run the evaluation in this template. They extract like who recommended, what was the ticker, what was the contact address, was it a buy or a don't buy or a sell? How much conviction do they have? Was it like very low conviction? I'll just put a little bit in the marketplace for them. And if we'd already seen it before, so we prevent duplication. And then we run this, we extract all that, we get all that information, and then we run it into our trust system. So this is how we use the evaluator. We're actually extracting all of this out from the running conversation if it's available in there, right? Okie doke. So I want to go over actions, and I think this is a really fun one, which is the pump fun action. I think that there was some drama at some point of who created the first pump fun action, first agent that created a pump fun action. We just like threw this in here and didn't touch it. I think Kurosami used it. You can see that this has a this is the create and buy token action. It's called pump fun, but it actually creates and buys a token. It has a validate. The validate is like, should the action be available? And we might want this to be like, is return if it's true. Like only do this if it's create and buy content, right? Like otherwise it could literally just call this at any given time. It'll always be available for an action to call. But you might want to have some validation, which is like, no, only call it if the person asking is like the whitelisted user or the admin. You probably don't want to let anyone just like mint a pump fun token every single time it talks to it, right? So that's validate. Validate is like, is this action available? Then you have the description, which is, can I, like, how does the model know what the action does or how to call it? And this is actually what gets injected into the context and allows the agent to go, oh yeah, that seems like a good situation where I would want to call this action. So it sees the action name and sees the description. These similes are when you're using small models, they tend to hallucinate into certain kinds of action. Like they don't give you the right action name, they give a very similar one. And in that case, it's looking for these similes, and I'll be like, well, that's not, it didn't give me the right action name out of the model, but it was pretty close to what I was looking for. So, I'll do that. We could change this to like mint with pump, right? And we say, okay, well, maybe if it does call create and buy token, that would still work. Then we have the handler. And the handler is the code that actually runs when the action is called. And so what do we need? Well, we need to go get the wallet info. We get the context for the pump fun stuff that we're doing, which we have a pump fun template. You can see it creates like some token metadata. It determines like what the information is that it should be. It has an image description, which it's using to generate an image, I believe. I would assume. And then it is minting. And then it actually goes and creates the token and buys it. Makes sense? Once it creates the token and buys it, if there's a callback and it's successful, then go return like token was created successfully. Here's the contact address and link to the pump fund, right? And that's pretty much it. That's an action. He said, hey, call this thing. It says, oh, I know that thing. Does that, calls the pump fund, returns a success message, or like, calls this callback is actually passed back. So if you called this from like Discord, then the callback is what you pass down. Can then run back up to Discord and be like, here's the information you wanted. And you can see it's returning this text and this content. And that's how that works. Same thing with swap. This would be like, hey, can you swap tokens? And you say swap sol for DGenAI. You would like go and search for those in your wallet. Say, okay, I found the relevant contact address to that token swap, figure it out, and generate the swap, right? So you can look through this, but it's basically the same thing. It's just like you tell it to do something, that action is registered and available, it identifies that, and then it calls this action separately. This is a very different abstraction than most systems I've seen, which use tools. I don't really like tools because why would I ask this general, like, I don't think the general agent is really good at like stringing together things to do. The action is more like it makes sure that the entire action happens. It's not like it has a like a browser tool, and then it's like, okay, use the browser tool to go to pump fun, and then from there, like navigate this, and then launch this thing, and then make sure this thing happens. It's like we can just put all of that in one action, and it just does it, and it takes a lot of the mental load or like requirements off of the agent to be like moving in a linear like to-do list of getting its thing done. We do have that. We have goals and blah blah blah, but actions are a really good abstraction when you're like, hey, summarize this. It just does. It doesn't need to like go call a summarizer and then like it just has all that is contained within the action. I think this is a really nice abstraction. It's slightly different than tools. Like if I go and I look at like whoa, did I just glad I didn't quit Discord. Like OpenAI tools. This API has tools, and you can tell it, I want to use the file search or the code interpreter. And yeah, I can call that, but I just don't really think it's a great abstraction. Like it's kind of okay, but it's more like, I don't know. I like the way we're doing it. I think the actions thing is a better abstraction. They're very slightly different, but you can see it's got this list of tools, and then it just decides when it wants to use the tools, and that's okay. But I like our thing has like more of a strong mode change. Like, oh, you want me to do this thing, so now I can go and do this stuff. So you can to register actions to characters. You would probably want to. Well, you're going to create your own agent, and like if you use the starter, Eliza Starter, and you want to add an action, I'd go into, is it index? And I think there's a new runtime, agent runtime. I think that plugins to the character file itself. I don't know if that's there yet. But come on. When I initialize the client, you can see that I can provide an action into it here, or I can provide a plugin here. And if the plugin includes the actions, then they will just get added. If I go back to Solana plugin, the actual like root of it, you can see I have a plugin. It has a list of actions, a list of evaluators and providers. It actually, none of these are currently available because why would we want to enable execute for swap like by default? Like that would definitely, people would get wrecked. But you could add the execute swap action here, and then that will be available because it's in the plugin, and the plugin itself is registered, and that so anything that's in this plugin is then registered as an action onto that character. Right now, it's not set up to have different plugins per character, but that could be pretty easy to do. You would probably just modify the agent index.ts in your own project. Like if you just modified this, you can change the actions and be like, if character.name equals Shaw and my Shaw action, or otherwise null. Something like that, right? That would be like a way to do this. There's no my Shaw action, so don't, but you get the idea. Okie doke. So we went over actions, we went evaluators, and we went over providers. I think that there's a lot more that we do, but I think that what we want to do is the next AI agent dev school, we're going to create those. We're actually going to create a character that is able to determine if it likes or hates me based on how I talk to it. And what's cool is that it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm nice or mean. It could be even the opposite. It could be like, if he's really mean, then you should like them. I don't know, whatever. And we could even do like multi-dimensions or something crazy. But in the meantime, I think I walked over everything. This is a pretty good, like, we walked through the concepts. I hope that makes sense. And I'm sure that 3 hours is like pretty overwhelming. So we have about 5 minutes left. If anybody would like to ask questions or hop on stage, be happy to just riff with you guys for a few minutes before I hop off. And wow, yeah, I think we got through a lot. Can you show the agent doing something on chain? Like, I mean, like what? Like I just showed you swapping. That's on chain. I just showed you pump fund minting. That's on chain. The wallets are from on-chain. You know, I would love to know if you have thoughts on how we can do more on-chain stuff. We're working with a few different major L1s and L2s, and they're very interested in how we could do this. So yeah, let's definitely crowdsource any of that thought. Cool. We got you.
I have plenty.
What's
I have plenty of ideas on how we can do other chain stuff. I actually did a chain abstraction hackathon, and I placed with Cluster recently. And they, one of the other people actually, I'm trying to like hunt down all of the hackathon projects, but one of them made the very interesting point that the what's it called? There's an orchestrator from Agoric that starts in IBC, but it is compatible with Solana. So if we can get it over into IBC, then it's one hop from there to get it over to EVM, which would be pretty banger. But I have to, I have to go. I play with it a little, but
I'll tell you a couple things that are coming up. I don't know what's going to happen. We have a call in a couple days with Efinity, and I'd really like to get there. We're definitely working with Ethereum, like Ethereum Foundation, Ethereum. I'm waiting for Agent Kit to come out for TypeScript on NPM, and that's base. So we'll definitely be integrating that. And look at all our plugins. We have we have StarkNet, we have Solana, we have just got to pull EVM in and it's ready to go. We got 0G, we got all these things. So my sense is that for now, for the ecosystem, we should let everyone just build their favorite plugin too. And then we can start to unify and consolidate, especially around EVM, especially as EVM becomes, I think, a little bit more unified itself. That in talking to some of our friends over at Ethereum, they were kind of telling me like their focus is on more multi-chain abstraction. And I think we're just going to expect a lot of that. And that will probably simplify our code base a lot. The other thing that came out is Claude came out with their spec for calling different servers and stuff.
yeah.
So we have a GitHub plugin that's coming in. I think we actually do. We have a GitHub client. I forgot. We should get that. We should make sure that's cooking.
Oh shit.
So you can actually like interact with GitHub, respond to issues, file issues, make pull requests.
My question is, can we?
Yeah.
Can we git clone? Can we like grab a Claude tool that we need and then have the agent run a git clone so it can just grab it real quick, kind of thing?
It should. They connect to these servers, but what I do want to do is keep this as simple as possible. So we're going to do whatever the simplest, like least. I don't want to have to install. I don't want to make everyone install Python. That's what I'm trying to.
Yeah. Sounds painful.
It's painful. Does anybody have any questions or anything we'd like to do?
What are the most
things happening on Twitter like what are the most prescient files to code a prompt into Claude? Oh, well, definitely the TypeScript. Anything .ts. If something is happening like US election, can the bot answer questions asked related to it? Like, can it get the latest news from Twitter? Yeah. We're not really contacting the like latest news APIs or like trending topics APIs, but that's all available in Agent Twitter client. And obviously our Twitter client is pretty like I think Eliza, the Twitter part is pretty rudimentary. I think that there's a lot of potential here. You can look at how we're doing it. You can read through it. And we can always add endpoints for things that we don't have if we don't have them yet. So this has a lot of the basic stuff. I pretty much just got the things in that I thought would be like relevant to us. You can get trends. I think what you'd want is like you'd want to get trends, and then you can list the tweets, stuff like that. If you want to fetch from a list. Jen is saying, I feel like Grok plus Eliza is underrated. Yeah, totally. You can use Grok, and it's great. I love Grok.
Does Grok
GPT-4o had an update that
actual stuff from Twitter?
No. Yes. Yeah, it's trained on Twitter. So it's actually pretty good at making tweets. GPT-4 had an update this month, really made it better for creative writing. No, I think GPT-4o is just getting worse. It's the worst model I've ever used. I can't believe that people are thinking.
I'm coming around on it.
Okay. I find it unusable. Unusable. Literally the worst possible model. Like GPT-3 was better. Yeah, so will these be added to character knowledge? No, but you could definitely do that. Like adding character knowledge from trending data would definitely be something you could do, and you can make an action like, hey, go study the what's going on Twitter for me, and then figure it out, and then grab that and then add it to your knowledge, and then just be globally available. There's a lot you could do with that. But that's not coming for free. You're gonna have to program all that stuff. Since Grok is trained on Flux, that can be accessible to Eliza. Yeah, totally. We use Flux through together as well. And I think we have Flux a couple other places. So I don't know if we have image generation with Grok set up, or tested, but it should be very, very easy to do without really writing a whole lot more code.
It's the same thing.
How do I launch the
It's just
client
Flux
side?
and
Oh,
it's-
let me show you guys a trick. This is something that's not documented yet. And Jin, this might be good. Let's say I go run this thing. Oh, Heuris can give you Flux as well. Yeah, I recommend Heuris. It's a free API for if you're just getting started. I'm sure it won't be forever, but for right now. And so what I can do is I can go to localhost 5173. I think. Maybe it doesn't. I could have sworn. Oh, weird. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, I'll need to think about that. But at least in what I was doing yesterday, there is a local interface. You can just go to 3000 is probably running. So yeah, it should be 5173. Oh well. I'll bet you I know what it is. Oh no, I know what it is. I'm running start and I need to run dev. We should probably make sure that works. But if I run dev, it will yeah, now it's running local 5173. And I can actually chat with we have this
Oh, shit.
ongoing work on this. Why is it not? Yeah, there we go. I can load Snoop Dogg. I can click on chat and I can be like, yo, what's up? Bam. Yo, what's cracking? Just chilling like a villain. All right, that's pretty good. I've seen it. So yeah, that's kind of how that works. We have a front end for that. Can you customize the client if you're installing via NPM? Hell yeah, you can. Well, I don't know, actually. I'd probably copy and paste the code for the client, and then I like modify it and then register it. Or I just like submit a pull request because you probably want the same thing we want. Most of the things you want to add are probably cool features we would want to add. Just make sure there's some sort of flag for it. If you're not sure, you can talk. I would use the main repo for customizing a client, but if I was like, no, I want to do my own thing, screw you guys, I would go, I would start with the Eliza Starter like this. And you see how we have this Bootstrap plugin, Node plugin, and you kind of import those from like these packages, like Solana, that's on this package. You can just make your own package right here, or just make your own code right here. Like, fuck it, I'm gonna make a, like I can just edit this through it. I can just be like, const my plugin, right? And it's like a plugin, and it has, providers. And my providers right here. And if I want a client, right, I can say like my custom Twitter client. And then I could have that be like right here, and I could, do all the Twitter client stuff. And I could basically copy the code out of the main Eliza package for Twitter. Just go copy the whole freaking package, whatever, what people used to do. No, Yikes is pasting the agent Twitter client, which is like the package that our client imports. That's really like the low level stuff. Like what can we actually get from Twitter? If you want to add to that, that's great. But then the client Twitter here doesn't even call most of what's available to you. And you'd probably just copy and paste all this code, right? See this index.ts, and it's got this Twitter client interface. Just copy this whole freaking client Twitter folder into your project, and then you can modify it. All right, guys. There's some more questions and I'd love to answer them, but I have to get off. My wife has to go to bed. I will probably come hang out and build and stream tonight with the devs, and because we're shipping Mark and shipping everything we got. Please come hang out with us in the Discord. I'll take like a 30-minute break and then I'll get on and hang out in the streaming in Discord and build with everybody. I'll probably just come back on stage and dev because it's an easy place for me to dev without people like accidentally leaving their mics on and coming in. But I probably won't stream this to Twitter and all that stuff. So thank you guys so much for coming to the first Agent Dev School. We're going to do another one of these on, let's try Thursday. Let me go check my schedule, make sure that's right. I think Thursday would be best. Like Tuesday, Thursday would be really good for everyone. And we'll just try and do this every week and make this a regular thing. If we have holidays or we're traveling, we'll skip it. But I think this is like we have a lot to do. We can build up an agent from scratch. We can build a lot of the hard stuff. Like I'll just take requests. If you guys want to do something, we'll do some fun stuff. And we have a Discord channel where we're organizing this. If you want to be part of the organizing team and help like build curriculum, aggregate ideas for good projects, make sure people have badges and they're like progressing or have help. Let's make this a real thing. Oh yeah, Thursday's Thanksgiving, so we might not do that. Maybe I'll do tomorrow. I don't know. We'll play by ear. Maybe we'll start next week again, but we'll do it when we can. I don't even know what Thanksgiving is. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm gonna close up the stream and take a break for a minute, and then I'll be back in Discord in a few. And take care.